I cannot stand before this august body without prefacing my statement in defense of closer unity of Africa, without stating first my unconditional solidarity with President Maduro and the government and people of Venezuela, who are currently under attack, savage attack, by the declining world hegemon of the United States. I think it's absolutely necessary to say that coming from that country.
So there's different teams in this embassy CIA spying ring, and each one of them couldn't communicate with the other directly or know the parts that they're working on. They couldn't even trust themselves, it seems like. And today, as we see, there's a lot of whistleblowers that are giving us information, like the Epstein files and the files about Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo and so on.
The United States is an imperialist power, and it's one of the characteristics of an imperialist power to plant spy dens and spy networks all over a country to control all its major political, social, economical systems, and to control these systems for its own benefits. So they work for its own profits. They exploited our natural resources. They exploited our oil.
Former American embassy, of course, right now is a museum, and the story is as the revolution happened, the youth from the universities around Tehran gathered at this embassy and jumped the fences and ended the presence of this CIA den that was responsible for a lot of the activities of the American intelligence in not only Iran, but all the region around it. So we're going to go inside. We're going to look at how the embassy has been transformed into a museum that shows how the American intelligence and the Israeli intelligence were using it as a hub for those activities, destabilizing much of the region. And we hopefully will be able to transmit all this information to you as we go inside.
This is a message of the students in the American Embassy of Tehran. We are not against the people of the USA. We are against of the United States policy in Iran.
We can see right behind us some of the parts left from Chinook helicopter, American Special Forces. Of course, after the takeover of the American embassy, there was the staff in the embassy that became prisoners in Iran, and the American Special Forces attempted to infiltrate Iran to take back these prisoners. And these multiple helicopters were shot down by the courageous Iranian resistance. And for those who are from the new generation that are living the realities today, the same special forces that attempted to take back the American prisoners in Tehran from the embassy are the same ones that kidnapped President Maduro of Venezuela. And unfortunately, the Venezuelan armed forces were unable to deliver on the same successes of the Iranian military. And the Iranian people succeeded in stopping the Americans from entering the country and retrieving the prisoners. And this carving didn't exist before the takeover of the embassy. The artists carved it into the granite rocks. And of course, this is an Iranian revolutionary, his beard symbolizing the Islamic Revolution, and the Kalashnikov is the fight against imperialism. And on the other side, right here, another one of those carvings. And the carving here is an Iranian foot stepping on the American flag. Symbolism is very important to maintain revolutionary fervor. You know, people sometimes don't realize how important art is in maintaining memory. And this is the famous drawing of Lady Liberty being Lady Death. And with all the Epstein files coming out, truth is now impossible to hide. There's a war between good and evil on this planet. And evil is represented by the American empire and its Zionist colony. And good is the Islamic Revolution, the Islamic Republic, and the axis of resistance.
Uhuru comrades. My name is Mwezi Odom. I am the chairperson of the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Counteroffensive, and representing the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition and all of its fronts to today's webinar, and thanking you all for being here, joining us live on YouTube, as well on our Facebook page, and those of you who are registered at handsoffuhuru.org/register to be here on Zoom in this very important a stand of unity across all, political struggles for the right to not only freedom of speech, anti-colonial free speech, but liberation, self-determination, and freedom in our lifetime. And so I just want to appreciate everybody for being here on today. We just saw several clips opening today's program, just to give an overview of the world situation. And, I represent here on behalf of the African People's Socialist Party, under the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela. We see that we have been involved in this struggle for the liberation of Africa and all colonized peoples all across the world. And so this is the struggle that we represent. So if you are here, you are also in unity with that struggle. And we want to send you all revolutionary salutes, and we will fight back until it's won. So today's webinar, as you all have know, is Victory to Iran, Palestine, Cuba, Venezuela, and victory to African and oppressed peoples all over the world. And so I'm going to give just a quick overview and just opening statement about where we are in the world today. We think it's important that we come here during this serious time, this declining of the world hegemon and this crisis of the social system that was built on slavery, genocide, and the colonial oppression. It's continuing to deepen today, and we are a part of its weakening. The Hands Off Uhuru support, coalition has won an important victory, a victory for the people of the planet. And this has pushed back the U.S. colonial state and the colonial mode of production. And I want to salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela, along with Penny Hess and Jesse Neville, who are also known as the Uhuru Three, with their overturning of their recent probation. The Hands Off Uhuru salutes our profound supporters and friends, those comrades. The Uhuru Three are no longer on probation. Due to early termination, and that also was a victory of the people. And we are looking forward to our oral arguments and our appeal on the Uhuru 3 case on the bogus conviction, which could literally be any day now, and which, as we are certain that victory will be for everyone as well. So the victory of the Uhuru 3 is an important victory for this period when colonized peoples all around the world are struggling to win and to maintain their self-determination and their sovereignty. This is, these are the critical struggles of the world today. We can clearly say that revolution is the main trend, or must be the main trend in the world today. And we want to salute the significance of the Black Power blueprint, which is negating the necessity for the colonial mode of production. This is what an anti-colonial struggle is about. And the Black Power blueprint in North St. Louis here in the United States is an example of that. And we have many things to show for that soon. We will also be summing up the Uhuru 3 victory, the victory of the Uhuru movement and its situation in the world today. So on today, just some notes and things that we are going to be continuing to talk about throughout today's program, how the US government now has entered its fourth week in its rounds of bombs and attacks on Iran by the US and Israeli tools in the Middle East. We are shown, of course, as we know, very little actual, carnage in the U.S.-Israel has inflicted, on Iran and Beirut and on other sites. The news that Iran is, we see the news that Iran is powerfully fighting back, and but this is not being publicized. In addition to the closing of the Straits of Hormuz, the video has not been shown of the damage of, to Tel Aviv and other cities, as well as the critical infrastructure, military bases, and urban areas across Israel, with missiles and with drones. And at the same time, the elected Nicolas Maduro and first combatant Celia Flores of Venezuela were kidnapped in violation of international law and are being held in hideous conditions in a prison in Brooklyn, being forced to withstand legal court hearings beginning a few days from now, which we will be talking about on March 26th. And at the same time, the US is viciously starving and cutting off all oil access to Cuba, creating deep starvation among the population, which we'll also talk about. The United States and Ecuador has also launched operations which involve the US providing intelligence, logistical support, and potentially direct action and to mark a significant expansion of US military involvement throughout Latin America, targeting what they describe as, quote unquote, drug trafficking networks or designated terrorist, organizations. This is all within Ecuador. The government and president of Colombia have also been threatened by the US, and the US conditions imposed on African community has increased, Black poverty with more than a quarter of Black children living in poverty. And this is why, again, the significance of the Black Power movement, which has also come under attack. So we have, just before I continue, I want to invite everybody to share today's webinar. This is a very important opportunity for us to, get this out there in the world. So if you have not shared, please share, and please let me know in the chat that you have shared. Uhuru. So we're going to pull up the slideshow now, and I want to appreciate our AV and all of our volunteers who are on with us today as well. And one thing that you've probably heard me say already is Uhuru. Uhuru means freedom. It is the Swahili word for freedom, and you can use that word and take it out in the world, because that's what we are fighting for. We are fighting for freedom, liberdad. So I want to again salute the Hands Off Uhuru counteroffensive, which was initiated by the July 29, 2022 raids on the African People's Socialist Party. This was an important, counteroffensive that was waged. Oh, I think we need to change the slides. Uhuru, comrade. Let's advance just a couple. And one more. Great, I went ahead. Uhuru, one more slide, please, Uhuru. All right, Uhuru. And so these are just some images of, following the raids in July of 2022 in North St. Louis. Again, where 7 homes and properties of the Uhuru movement were raided, at the same time in St. Louis and also in St. Petersburg, Florida. These are some images here of the, and there's a video that you can find on our website at handsoffuhuru.org that shows the raid. This is on the Uhuru House in St. Petersburg, Florida, where they covered cameras and stole countless of items and archives. So we want to salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela and also the Uhuru 3, comrades Penny Hess and Jesse Neville, who who work under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, who build the Solidarity Front for reparations to African people. And this was also an attempt to silence white people into standing in unity with the African liberation struggle. Support came from around the world, and we want to salute everybody, our supporters from all corners of the globe, who are, helping to build this global anti-colonial free speech movement. And we just want to salute our comrades from South Africa to from occupied Tanzania to Southern California to Europe, all throughout the US, the Caribbean, and beyond. This is what built the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition, which is described as a non-sectarian anti-colonial free speech coalition to make the demand to drop the charges against the Uhuru 3 and defend the right to freedom of speech. As we know, the Uhuru 3 free speech trial of the century was our way to fight back in the colonial courts to, take us down with the Uhuru 3. And we call this the free speech trial of the century because, as we know, these attacks continue to come in full force. But we packed the courthouse and the people showed up, and we want to salute everybody who was there on the day of the trial. And we want to salute all those who also came to the sentencing. After the Uhuru Three were found not guilty of working for the Russians, but in fact working for Black people. They had to deal with the bogus conspiracy of conviction of being still under the bogus political conspiracy laws. And so our sentencing, the judge said not 1 day in prison, no fine for the Uhuru Three. This was a victory. And we want to really salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela for his tremendous leadership in building this counteroffensive to give the colonized peoples of the world confidence that we can fight this when we have a position and an understanding, that is making basically the law fight themselves. If you say that free speech is for all, then this whole indictment and the charges are bogus. And so we just want to salute the comrade, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, for his leadership and our brilliant legal team. Comrades Addie Griffin, Mutaki Akbar, Leonard Goodman, Angela Rainey, and Tom Inskeep, who will, salute later on as well, but just really want to appreciate the legal front, which these courageous lawyers took on to take this whole case to trial. The Uhuru Three appeal is why we keep saying it is not over. We submitted our appeal in June of last year, and we received a response back from the DOJ, and now we are looking to move on with the next steps, which would be, towards oral arguments. And so this case, and this is why we must still join in the struggle for the Uhuru Three appeal, because this case will now be, which was filed in the 11th Circuit Courts of Appeal, is now seeking to overturn this conviction, and which will be a case precedenting case for future free speech laws coming under attack. So just want to salute the chairman as well as Deputy Chair Onizine Yeshitela, who is building the economic front of the African liberation movement in today. And this is the architect of the Black Power Blueprint. And so I'm going to just turn it over to my co-MC, Comrade Penny Hess, who's also here with me, one of the Uhuru Three. We're going to go through, again, just some more highlights around the world in terms of where we are right now. Uhuru, comrade.
Uhuru, Uhuru, it is an honor to be here, and want to salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And after this, by the way, we are going to be singing the African Nation fight song before we go on with this webinar today. Really excited to be here today and want to welcome everybody who's on. And I just wanted also to say really quickly, I wanted to salute those videos that we saw and let people be clear that the video of Chairman Omali Yeshitela speaking was from 2019 when he spoke at the Oxford Union for a debate at Oxford University in London. And that was very powerful that he raised the struggle of Venezuela at that time. And I also wanted to thank the Free Palestine TV for that powerful video of the tour of the museum to the Nest of Spies, which I had no idea was a museum inside of Iran. And that was very powerful to see. We will be showing more of that in the future on other upcoming webinars. So I wanted to join in saluting Chairman, Deputy Chair Onizine Yeshitela. We want to say victory to the people of Iran, US/Israel out of Iran and the Middle East, victory to Palestine, victory to please advance the slides, victory to the people of Venezuela, US out of Latin America, Que viva Puerto Rico libre, and salute Puerto Rican independence, and salute Lolita Lebron, presente, and the struggle for independence of Puerto Rico. Next slide. Victory to Mexican indigenous people. Salute the struggles against ICE, the US forces here, and we just, as always, want to salute Unión del Barrio. Next slide. Long time, 40-year, very, very close relationship with the African People's Socialist Party and Uhuru movement, fighting for the liberation of the Mexican indigenous people on both sides of the illegitimate border of the United States. Next slide, victory to African people inside the US and around the world. Powerful picture here from the Black People's March on Washington, the annual March of the Black is Back Coalition. Next slide, victory to African people on the continent of Africa who also are members of the African People's Socialist Party and Uhuru movement and who stood strong for hands off Uhuru and had many powerful demonstrations. Next slide, victory to African people in London and the African People's Socialist Party in London standing up for hands off Uhuru. And we want to salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela's key understanding of the colonial mode of production, key to understanding how the party has struggled, how it has won, and the chairman's definition of colonialism as the mode of production that produces everything for the colonizer, then shows that everything that the colonizer has comes at the expense of the colonized. Victory to African people, stop colonial assaults on North St. Louis, stop US-Israel attacks on Iran, victory to the Iranian people. Here are pictures similar to the conditions in North St. Louis. Next slide, stop US-Israeli assaults on Lebanon and the Middle East. Stop US government starvation of Cuba. Salute to the Venceremos Brigade. Uhuru. Uhuru, and turning it back over to you, Chairman Wazy.
Uhuru, thank you, comrade. And I just want to appreciate that overview and just to remind everybody that if you have not been following this campaign, this is the time for us to also remember some of the other important aspects of this fight back on today. So we can go to the next slide. We want to announce our goal for today. We talked about the Uhuru 3 appeal and the struggle for the oral arguments, and we want to be able to bring it not only in the courtroom but on the ground, boots on the ground, and invite everybody to attend the oral arguments when that date and that time and location is announced. And so as we build towards the oral arguments, we invite everybody to go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate and help us reach our goal today of $2,000. We will talk about how this relates to the overall goal for the oral arguments, but we must continue to put out the call and for us to get this out to friends and to family and to others, in our organizations who, maybe have not contributed, but can also help to contribute to this overall fight back and this goal. Because overall, comrades, what we understand that we are fighting is we are fighting colonialism. And we understand that, colonialism is the foreign and the alien domination of a people for economic exploitation and political advantage. That is what we are seeing right now around the world. And its goal, the goal of colonialism, is to strip a people of all human and civil rights without regard to law. We see all types of international laws being broken during this period. And so we must understand that if we want to fight all of these, we must fight its origin, which is colonialism. And we as colonized people have a special interest in fighting against colonial oppression as it relates to the looting of our stealing of our land, our labor, and our resources. So again, I just want to also salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela, as Chairwoman Penny did share, earlier, the chairman's opening statements at the Oxford Union debate in England in 2019. This was 2 years 3 years before the attacks, 50 years after Malcolm X also spoke on the same stage. Chairman Omali Yeshitela has stood with the Iranian students in Gainesville, which we'll be talking about more in today's program. This is a photo from 1979 in Gainesville, Florida. And so, as we talk about Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, we denounce the U.S. abduction and the imprisonment of President Nicolas Maduro and first combatant Celia Flores. We say free Nicolas Maduro, free Dr. Celia Flores, and we say long live the revolution of the Bolivarian revolution, and long live the Cuban revolution. And we have images here of Che and Fidel. We say long live to Cuba's history of internationalism. We want to salute again the 32 Cuban revolutionaries who were there to protect and to defend Nicolas Maduro and Celia Flores and the people of Venezuela. We see the intensification on, of these colonial threats, on the tightening pressure on Cuba. The New York Times has, recently reported Trump's, response to, we can take Cuba, and, his putting pressure on Cuba, as we know, with this strangulation of the oil and this development of these shields and these other types of organizations that are meant to help bring Cuba's leaders to to justice, quote unquote. We want to salute the comrades who were also on the ground in New York just last Friday, standing with the Cuban delegation who came, and the call to action conference that was called by the comrades in Cuba. And we want to salute, oh, thank you, Comrade Uhuru. One of the slides wasn't popping up. I think our AV is showing that. This is a great image that you'll see here of comrades from Los Ronderos de los Redes, also with the Cuba C, New York, New Jersey, as well as the Cuba Normalization Organization and Coalition, and comrades from the African National Women's Organization, holding up the flags of Venezuela, Iran, the African, flag, Cuba, and Palestine. And this is just part of, or Lebanon. This is part of our struggle, comrades, is to unite all these, struggles under one banner. And so we understand this decades-long blockade on Cuba is tied to the same, colonial plight that we're seeing around the world. But this is, the most intense moment for the people of Cuba, again, with the partial travel restrictions that took place last year to just earlier this year in January, the executive order that, threatened to impose tariffs on countries that provide oil to Cuba. And we see that, Cuba's economy, is rapidly weakening, as we have comrades right now on the ground today there who are bringing, medical supplies and the much needed aid, humanitarian aid for the people of Cuba. The government has had to cut back on school hours. Obviously, doctors are having to stay at the hospital. They can't even travel home because of the fuel shortages, and even certain surgeries have been cut off. Public transportation, obviously, the limited, impact as well on food, imported food shipments as well. And so President Diaz-Canel, as of recently, has also called for a transformation of the country's economic model, which we understand is what Cuba has done best for the past 60 some years. But this is a very dire moment. So we say salute to the Cuban resistance. We say long live, and salute to the comrades who are there right now on the ground standing with the people. And we want to encourage everybody. You'll be hearing from Comrade Jesus later on in today's program, but Jesus Rodriguez is the editor and founder of Orinoco Tribune. He has been covering a lot of what we were talking about on today. So we invite you to also follow his platform as well. And we want to salute Orinoco Tribune and Jesus, some of the first organizations that stood with the Uhuru 3 in this fight back as well. And so we will continue to talk about this more, but as we always have to acknowledge is that as African people, we stand on the victory of the Haitian Revolution. So we say hands off IET, and we say no to the colonial military occupation of IET. And as this relates to the, to the rest of the African world, victory, to salute to the movement of the Sahel, President Ibrahim Traore, as we see the crisis of imperialism, has to now contend with these other, fronts that are building. So we invite everybody to join the Hands Off Uhuru Latin America Front. We'll have an announcement later on about how you can join this fight back. We want to salute the comrades who are part of this work. And we want to say hands off Uhuru, hands off Iran, hands off Cuba, and hands off Venezuela. We have I want to come back to our program now because we do have a really important opportunity and interview with just a little bit of culture that we wanted to add to this program, particularly as it relates to the struggle in Ecuador. Comrade Penny Hess, is that video going to be shown later on, the fight song? Can I advance the program? I just wanted to make sure before I move.
I thought it was gonna be advanced now. We were gonna show it now.
Okay, I did not have that information. So if we can maybe allow our AV to pull that up.
Yeah, to play that. Do we have it?
Yes, it's on right now. I see it.
And then I think we should go over the translation because it's a really powerful song.
Yes.
Uhuru. Uhuru.
Africa, we are winning. Shout Uhuru for Africa. Patrice Lumumba's life won't be in vain. We are winning. Keep up the work in Marcus Garvey's name. We are winning. Independent and free is what we will be. We are winning. Africa will bask in our victory. We are winning. Long live the liberation of our African nation. Freedom to organization. Socialist world, our creation. 1 billion strong, yes, we are one. We are winning.
Uhuru, Uhuru comrades. We just took a brief interlude to play a really important song as it relates to the African liberation struggle. That's the African Nation Fight song. That song was composed by our comrade Alikia Ngoma, as well as other leaders in the Uhuru movement who, played a really important role, not just in the sound and what you hear and the reminder that we are winning, but also in the rest of the lyrics that you will see. And you can find that video actually on our YouTube channel. And if we find a way to also drop that link in the chat, it is political education in itself. And so I just really want to salute the African Nation Fight song. And I want to, invite those of you who find access to this video to play it, to your family, play it to yourself. Use this as an opportunity to also help to share revolutionary culture as it relates to using all fronts in the strategic effort for our struggle, the anti-colonial struggle and our struggle for liberation of African people. So I just want to again salute the comrades for that song and the intervention by Chairwoman Penny to play that. We are also actually waiting on another important panelist who is not on right now. So I think I might make some adjustments to the agenda, Comrade Co-MC, and we may move on with our interview with Comrade Jesus, because I do want to, just before I can say anything, is that we are very honored today to have, if the comrade is able to join us, Ardi Cerda, who is a Quechua musician in Ecuador with the group called Yachay. And as I said, he's from Ecuador in the province of Pastaza, in a community just outside of Puyo in the Amazon. And he's going to be showing us, or we're going to play one of his music videos, which is in the language of Quechua, also known as Runa Shimi, and also parts of it in Spanish as well. Oh, and I think I see, is that Ardi? We have somebody who's helping to facilitate that. Comrade Ann, is that what I'm seeing? Uhuru.
Yes, looks like he's
Okay,
on.
hola. Oh, okay, well, right on. So we're on schedule. Hola, Ardi. Hola, compañero. And I just want to say too that we do have an interpreter who's going to be helping to interpret this interview. Since neither of us speak the same language, and I want to make sure that Ardi can have his translation as well. So I want to also appreciate our interpreter who will be taking this on for me. So perhaps they can just let Ardi know that we see him and that he's on, and we're happy that he made it with us today. Uhuru.
Uhuru, can the interpreter be heard?
Yes.
Very good, thank you. Buenos días, Ardi. Lo vemos y gracias por su presencia aquí hoy en esta presentación.
Uhuru. Can we see if Ardi can hear us before we begin? Maybe just confirm.
Compañero Ardi, ¿usted nos puede escuchar bien? ¿Nos
Sí,
puede
sí,
oír?
sí me escuchan.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Wonderful.
Sí,
Uhuru,
sí,
compañero.
sí les escucho.
Excelente,
Perfect.
excelente, Uhuru compañero. Sorry.
Uhuru. Yo me llamo
Okay.
Mwezi Odom, and I'm very glad that you're here with us on today. Thank you for joining us. We're going to have a brief interview with you and to learn more about you and your music group and the struggle of the people of Ecuador.
Me llamo Mwezi y vamos a hacer una breve entrevista con usted para aprender más sobre usted, sobre su grupo musical y sobre el pueblo de Ecuador.
Uhuru.
Okay, está bien.
Okay,
So,
very good.
okay, so I'll go
Vamos,
ahead and
adelante.
yes, ask the first question. And again, Uhuru means freedom. So I want to appreciate your participation in today's program. And again, as has been stated, you're here representing the people of Ecuador and your music group, Yachay. And we're going to, at some point, I think we should play that song. Maybe we'll play the song, and then after the song, interpreter Ardi can tell us what inspired this song and also about the group.
Uhuru, pues quiero expresar el agradecimiento por su participación en el programa de hoy y usted está aquí representando al pueblo de Ecuador y a su grupo musical Yachay y pues quizás vamos a escuchar la canción y después podría decir cuál fue contarnos un poco sobre la inspiración para esta canción y acerca del grupo. ¿Está bien?
Ya, excelente, excelente. Escuchemos primero la
Excellent.
canción. Okay.
Let's hear the song. Yeah, okay.
Nukanchik YaYa atawalpami, Nukanchik YaYa atawalpami, chusku asikurita charishka, chusku asikurita charishka, chaymanta mari mishukunaka, chaymanta mari mishukunaka, sindiya kuwarupa chinaushka, sindiya kuwarupa chinaushka, Nukanchik YaYa humandi mari, Nukanchik YaYa humandi mari, achido napi causas kamari, achido napi causas kamari. Chaymanta mari mishukunaka, chaymanta mari mishukunaka, makasha mari kalpa chinaushka, makasha mari kalpa chinaushka, Nukanchik YaYa palati mari, Nukanchik YaYa palati mari, puyo llaktapi causas kamari, puyo llaktapi causas kamari, chaymanta mari mishukunaka, chaymanta mari mishukunaka, kalpachishami kachanoshkairi, kalpachishami kachanoshkairi. Chaymanta mari kuna churiuna, chaymanta mari kuna churiuna, opishutita shaya chiskanchi, opishutita shaya chiskanchi, chaymanta mari kuna churiuna, chaymanta mari kuna churiuna, compañatas kashaya chiskanchi. chiscanchi con piñetas casaya chiscanchi chay manda maricuna churiuna chay manda maricuna churiuna goyanetas casaya chiscanchi goyanetas casaya chiscanchi.
Wow. Beautiful. I will turn it back to Ardi to, explain, but we just heard from the song Nukanchik YaYa. Beautiful, beautiful track. And I want to turn it back to our interpreter so we can continue with this really exciting interview, Uhuru. Oh, maybe they're on mute. Yes.
Apologies. Sí, qué canción más bella, y ahora voy a pedirle a Ardi que explique sobre esta canción Nukanchik YaYa y con la ayuda de la intérprete.
Ya. Ok, sí me escucha bien, ¿no? Sí me escucha.
Can you hear me well?
Ok.
Yes. Yes, sí.
Sí.
Ya. Bueno, primeramente mi nombre es Ardito Cerda. Soy quichua, de la nacionalidad quichua, de acá del Cantón Arajuno, provincia de Pastaza, de Ecuador. Primeramente quiero
Momento, por favor, ¿puedo
primeramente quiero
interpretar
presentar.
esa parte?
Ok.
Podemos ir en pedazos, por favor. Disculpe, señor. Muchas gracias. Bueno, primeramente yo soy Ardito Cerda y soy quechua de Payasa. Adelante.
Pastaza.
Pastaza, disculpe.
Okay. Yes, continue. Sí.
Ya,
yes,
sigo yo,
go
¿no?
ahead, Ardi. Yes.
Adelante,
Continue,
Ardi.
yes, Uhuru.
Continúe.
Ya. Este, hablando de la canción, pues, yo soy hijo mis padres fueron creadores de muchas organizaciones. Mi padre fue músico indígena igualmente. Mi mamá fue docente, enseñando nuestro idioma, nuestras costumbres. Entonces, yo vengo de una familia con esta raíz de lucha. Entonces, la
Gracias.
canción netamente
Momento,
es
momento, por
específica.
favor. ¿Puedo interrumpir?
Ok,
Disculpe, si puede hablar como un poco más corto para la interpretación. Discúlpeme, señor. Well, speaking of the
está
song,
bien.
okay, gracias, disculpe. Speaking of the song, well, I am the son of, well, my parents were creators of many organizations, and my father was a musician, my mother was a docent, and or teacher, she taught the language and customs of our people, and so those are the roots that I come from.
Yes, beautiful.
Sí, qué bello.
Ya, y esta canción habla sobre en sí de la conquista española aquí en nuestro país, prácticamente a nivel de Latinoamérica. Entonces, la
And
canción
this
habla de ya.
And the song speaks about the conquest of the Spanish over our country here and also in all of Latin America. Adelante.
Y entonces en la canción existe tres personajes que se llama Atahualpa, Humandi y Palati.
And in this song, there are
Yeah.
three characters that are named Atahualpa, Humandi, y Palati.
Sí, Palati.
Yes, Palati.
Sí, continuar. Okay,
Entonces,
Yes.
esta canción es representada a nivel del país. Por ejemplo, Atahualpa es el último inca que fue conquistado aquí en la parte de la sierra, ¿no? En la parte el
so this
Ecuador.
song represents the whole country. For example, Atahualpa was the last Inca that to be conquered here in the Sierra in Ecuador.
Ya, de ahí viene Jumandi, que es también de la parte amazónica, de la parte norte, ¿no? De la
And
parte
then there
norte
was
ya.
then there was Humandi, who is from the Amazon, the northern part.
Ya, entonces, y también el último personaje es Palati, que es de la parte central de la Amazonia, de la Amazonia.
And then there, the last character is Palati, who is from the central part of the Amazon.
Uhuru. Wow. I don't know if there's any more, maybe if that Ardi would like to say, Adito, about this song, but just from what I've heard, I just really want to, yeah, so maybe we can ask him and then I can just give my remarks before we move on. But just thank you so much for that history of resistance that we heard in song, but also lived out, in the life of your family and the people of Ecuador. Uhuru.
Pues muchas gracias por esa canción y la historia que ha vivido su familia y el pueblo de Ecuador. And I'm not sure, the interpreter is not sure if she sees
Ardi anymore?
Ardi. I think we may have lost him. The interpreter did hear some interference or but like a buzzing. Yeah.
I heard that as well.
And then I didn't hear any more from him.
Okay. Well, perhaps as we work to get our comrade back on, and this won't be the last time that we hear from our Ardi and others in this struggle, particularly in Ecuador. This is, the work that the Latin America Committee is, building. We have comrades, they were there on the front in Ecuador as part of that front, who have helped to make this connection. And one of the, perhaps I may just say a couple things, because if it doesn't look like we will get Ardi back on right away, we can always have him come back and check in with him. So let me just check right now. You see him back
on the screen now, yes.
Great. Okay, right on.
Hola, muy bien, Uhuru.
Okay, glad you're back, Ardi.
Me alegro de que esté de vuelta con nosotros, Ardi.
Ya, el problema es que estoy en una comunidad, en una actividad justamente compartiendo con la gente, entonces es muy difícil la señal. Me disculpan, se puede entrecortar.
Yes, the problem is I'm right now in a community activity. I'm with some other people, and it's the signal is not very strong, so it can cut in and out.
Yes. Okay, well, we will make sure that we do as much as we can to, make the best of this time, but we're so grateful for what you shared earlier, Ardi, in terms of the history of the song, the inspiration behind it, and the three characters who, we know that are right now with us as well in this, in this revolutionary fight back. So thank you so much for that overview about this song we heard. Uhuru.
Bueno, pues vamos a tratar de aprovechar lo mejor que podamos del tiempo que tenemos juntos y muchas gracias por habernos compartido la historia y de esa canción, la inspiración y sobre los tres personajes importantes que sabemos que ellos están ahora mismo con nosotros en esta lucha de contraataque anticolonialista.
Uhuru. And just to, I will announce this earlier, but I would just like Ardi to know that we have people tuning in from, all over, here in the United States, as well as comrades in Africa as well, who are just sending their appreciation for you and thank you for that song. Uhuru.
Pues quisiera que usted sepa, quizás lo anunciamos antes, pero quisiera que sepa que hay compañeros que están juntados a esta reunión a través de todos los Estados Unidos y también a través de África. Hay compañeros que le envían su aprecio y agradecimiento por esa presentación y la canción.
So Uhuru. So I will move to the next question. Oh, I think Ardi is responding. But let's continue because we do want to talk about Ecuador. And you know, Ecuador is the first nation in the world to recognize in their constitution the rights of Mother Earth. This is called Pacha Mama, which means Mother Earth, you know, Mother of the Cosmos in Quechua and Aymara languages. So something that, you know, we recognize is critical to the resistance amongst the working class struggles that exist throughout Ecuador and throughout Latin America and beyond. So the question for Ardi is, can you talk about the resistance that has grown in the region where you are and the types of organizing that is being led by the indigenous people to reclaim their land, their labor, and their dignity, just even where you are right now? Uhuru.
Bueno, pues queremos hablar de Ecuador y am, Ecuador es la primera nación del mundo que ha incluido en la Constitución Nacional el reconocimiento de los derechos de la Madre Tierra, es decir, de la Pachamama. Pachamama significa la Madre Tierra o la Madre del Cosmos en Quechua y Aymara, cosa que reconocemos como un factor crucial para la resistencia en las luchas de la clase obrera que existe a través de Ecuador, a través de toda la América Latina y más allá. Entonces, la pregunta para Ardi es la siguiente. ¿Puede hablar de la creciente resistencia en la región y de cómo los pueblos indígenas se han organizado para reclamar sus tierras, su labor y su dignidad?
Ya.
Y
A
la
ver,
intérprete le pide hablar en pedazo un poco corto, por favor. Muchas
ok.
gracias. Disculpe.
Bueno,
Just the interpreter asked him to speak in short pieces. Thank you.
Got it.
como había quedado con Ani creo que era la que me había invitado al evento.
As I had agreed with Anne was the one who had invited me to this event.
Yo iba a hablar el tema musical, la resistencia, ¿por qué hago la música para el pueblo, para que resista, sigamos en la lucha? Pero en el caso de justo lo que tú me preguntas, voy a dar paso a mi madre, que es mi inspiración para hacer las canciones, a mi padre, que ellos van a expresar desde su experiencia y
Okay,
cómo fue la lucha.
Okay, momento. Well, what we had agreed on is that I was going to speak about the music and the aspect of using music for resistance and in the struggle. But as you asked me this question, I'm going to allow, mencionó que es su madre, la madre de usted que va a hablar?
Sí.
Okay, I'm going to allow my mother to answer that question as she was with my father in all of that time, and that's as far as the creo que fue todo, ¿no?
Sí, está bien.
Gracias. Yes, that's fine.
Uhuru. Yes, that's fine. And just to say and acknowledge that the music is a part of that organization that, you know, that we also see as very significant. So I do want to acknowledge that as well. Uhuru.
Y pues también quiero reconocer que nosotros vemos la música y la cultura como parte de la misma resistencia del movimiento, así que queremos reconocer que eso tiene, que es muy significativa lo de la lucha cultural.
Entonces, daré paso a mi madre, ¿ya? ¿Estamos?
Okay, so I'll allow my mother to
Your
speak,
mother
shall
now.
I? Sí, sí.
Yes, if she
Claro.
can speak to some of the growing resistance and the type of organizing that we're seeing there on the ground. Thank you.
Sí, y si ella puede, por favor, hablar de la resistencia creciente y la resistencia que está poniéndose siempre más y más fuerte todos los días allá en Ecuador.
Ok, ya. Entonces, ahorita les pongo con mi madre, ella es Margarita López.
Okay, so I'll put you on with my mother now. Her name is Margarita Lopez.
Hola, señorita. Hola, señora López. Adelante, gracias.
Sí, buenas tardes.
Yes. Good
Nuestra lucha
afternoon.
se ha iniciado vista de que los gobiernos de turno que administran nuestro país no respetan nuestros territorios, no respetan lo que nosotros tenemos en la selva, en la causa Xacha. Entonces, es lo que nosotros, como pueblos y nacionalidades quichuas de Pastaza, hemos organizado y seguimos organizando para defender nuestro territorio.
Yes, so the governments that change, but the governments do not respect our territory. They do not respect what we have here in the jungle. They do not respect, I think there was a proper noun, Kausaksucha, dijo?
Causa Xacha.
Kausaksacha, they do not, gracias, they do not respect Kausaksacha. And
Sacha, selva viviente, selva que tiene vida, los árboles, las plantas, los humanos, los animales, los pequeños bichos, todo lo que hay en la selva, todo el conglomerado es vivo. Entonces decimos, causa Sacha, selva viviente.
Gracias. Kausaksacha includes everything that is in the jungle, the land, the jungle, the trees, the plants, the human beings, the animals, even the little insects, everything that's living, that whole conglomerate is referred to as Kausaksacha. It's the living jungle. Gracias. Pues que había otra parte, voy a terminar lo que había dicho. I'm just going to finish what the speaker had said after that. So the peoples, the Quechua people, that's what we're organizing for.
Uhuru. Wow.
Uhuru.
Uhuru. I know there will be a chance for questions later on, and so I hope if they do stay on with us, anybody who's listening can also put some questions in the chat, and if we can't get them today, we will, we can ask them later. I'll pause there, interpreter.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Wow, Uhuru. Pues creo que habrá tiempo para preguntas después, posiblemente, así que si pueden quedar con nosotros, posiblemente podemos hacer las preguntas o puedo poner las preguntas en la charla.
Uhuru. Just a quick response. I just want to really appreciate Ardi and Senora Lopez for, for her response and the history of the struggle to defend Saksha, and I will get that right. But what I understand is that this is essential to living, not just the territories, but as Ecuador says, Mother Earth. And just really wanted to say, last thing is, we understand too, is not just Noboa or this other president, it is the whole system, that continues to sell out the working class people. So thank you for that analysis, Uhuru.
Pues quería dar agradecimiento a Ardi y a la señora López por haber compartido esa información sobre la historia y del territorio. Y entendemos que sí tenemos que defender a la madre tierra, y no solamente es Noboa ni el otro presidente, sino es una lucha contra el sistema entero.
Uhuru. And thank you so much, interpreter. Yes, I see you're nodding. See, so we just want to say just a couple of more things before we move on. But we just wanted to say, in that same theme, as we talk about, colonialism, because that's what it is. This is the system of colonialism, which is the origin of the oppression of African people, indigenous people, all oppressed peoples of the world. This is the same assault on Africa that brought us here to the Americas. Africa's in Ecuador, Africa's in Cuba, in Venezuela, as captives on the stolen land of the indigenous peoples. And so we understand that it is colonialism that created Ecuador after the land was stolen, by the Spanish. And so this imperialist attack on the indigenous people in Ecuador also resulted in the looting, as we're saying, the polluting of the natural resources of for the political and economic gain of the imperialists. And so what message do you have for, do you want me to?
Can I just do that part,
Yes,
perhaps?
great, that makes
Okay.
sense. Yeah.
Thank you. Pues un par de cosas más y siguiendo básicamente en el mismo tema, quería decir que reconocemos que el colonialismo es la causa original de la opresión de los pueblos africanos e indígenas y de los pueblos oprimidos a través del mundo. El mismo ataque contra África nos llevó hasta aquí, a las Américas, como cautivos en las tierras robadas de los pueblos indígenas. Fue el colonialismo el que creó el Ecuador después de que España les robara la tierra de los pueblos indígenas. Este ataque imperialista contra los pueblos indígenas de Ecuador también desencadenó los saqueos y la contaminación de los recursos naturales para el beneficio económico y político de los imperialistas. And your question, comrade?
Uhuru, thank you. And also I do see the chairman's hand is raised too, so that can be also just prepare for that interpreter.
Thank you.
Yes, in terms of the questioning, but just the question that we would like to ask is, what message do they have for, African or Black people, here in the US and around the world, as we all fight back against this same common enemy?
Y pues la pregunta que tendríamos para ustedes es, ¿cuál sería el mensaje que ustedes quieran comunicarle al pueblo africano o al pueblo de la raza negra en los Estados Unidos y a través del mundo para seguir y ganar la lucha de contraataque contra los imperialistas?
Yo pienso de que así como nosotros hemos hecho, primero organizar, juntarse fuerza entre todos, hombres, mujeres, jóvenes, todos juntarse, organizar y defender lo que es nuestra tierra, nuestra vida, nuestra educación. Entonces, cuando se junta entre bastantes personas, entre bastantes fuerzas, solo así nosotros hemos conseguido y estamos en esa lucha. Entonces, eso es mi mensaje, de que se organicen entre toditos y así para defender lo que es nuestra vida, nuestra educación, nuestro territorio, etcétera.
Wow.
Gracias. Pues yo creo que mi mensaje
Oh, you got to say it in English.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I know.
I apologize.
Okay.
This interpreter.
I know that hurt.
My notes are in English. I apologize. Pues yo creo, I'm sorry. I think that what we need to do is organize. Everyone needs to organize, get together and organize and to fight back. The men, the women, the young people organize and defend what is ours, our land, our lives, our education. And when people all get together, when a lot of people all get together to organize, then they can, then you can make progress. And that is how we have done that. We're here in the fight, and that fight is to organize everyone together and to defend our lives, our land, and our education.
Wow. Uhuru. Wow. I just want to, yes, organize, don't agonize, organize. I know the chairman had his hand raised, but and that is what, the same message that has been, reiterated is, moving from protest to organization. This is the strongest, this is our defense as colonized and oppressed peoples, is to organize and to build our own capacity to fight back. I'll pause there and then we can move it.
Thank you. Uhuru, wow, pues sí, correcto, es lo que decimos también, organizar, no lamentar, es mejor organizar que lamentar, y es el mismo mensaje que se ha reiterado de mover de la etapa de protesta a la etapa de organización, de organizarse, y en la defensa para que los colonizados y los oprimidos se pueden defender y hacer el contraataque contra el colonialismo.
Uhuru. And Uhuru means freedom, libertad. When you hear us say that, that is what we are saying. And this is how we greet each other in our movement, because we understand we are in the struggle for freedom. So I want to say Uhuru, Ardi, and Senora Lopez. And also if the chairman would like to speak, please make yourself on the screen so I can know that as well. But
Y
thank you.
Uhuru significa libertad, y nosotros cuando nos escucha decir eso es lo que queremos decir, significa libertad, y utilizamos esa palabra para saludarnos entre nosotros, y pues Uhuru es para la lucha, la libertad, y creo
Uhuru.
que that was all.
So yes. So Uhuru. And just to say that for everybody, Uhuru. And we will play at the end of our webinar another powerful song by Yachay. This song is called Resistencia, and it's a powerful song. So everyone will be invited to get up out of your seats and to move and to hear this, this song of resistance. But I just wanted to appreciate both of you for being on today. Uhuru. Venceremos.
Muchas gracias a los dos por haber estado presente con nosotros hoy, y ahorita vamos a tocar la canción Yachay, y todo el mundo tendrá la oportunidad de levantarse y bailar si quieren, y queremos apreciar mucho su participación, y Uhuru y venceremos.
Uhuru y resistencia para ustedes.
Sí.
Uhuru and resistance.
Yes. Uhuru, I do see the chairman on. Perhaps was St. Louis, can you hear us? And okay, we're going to move it. But again, thank you so much, comrades. And if there's any last words that they'd like to say, or, last statements, interpreter, if you can please ask, and then we'll move.
Pues veo que el presidente Yeshitela ya está listo para hablar, pero queremos otra vez agradecerlos y preguntar que si tiene alguna última declaración que quiere dar, o otra pregunta o otra cosa que quiere decir antes de seguir con el programa.
Yes, we hope you stay with us.
Sí, como decía mi madre, hay que organizarse, sigan organizándose, hay que tomar fuerza. Nosotros con la música seguiremos dando más fuerza, inventando y construyendo más canciones para la lucha contra el colonialismo.
Sí.
Y no existe pueblos sin nacionalidades.
Yes, that's the thing, is to continue organizing and to gain strength through music. And we're going to continue creating and composing more songs for the anti-colonial fight.
Uhuru. Abajo el colonialismo. Venceremos.
Abajo el colonialismo.
Y venceremos.
Uhuru. So
down
please
with
stay
colonialism,
on with us.
we will win.
Yes, we will win.
Uhuru.
If we can just ask Ardi, and
yes,
for as long as they can, if they are welcome to, please stay on if there's any questions. But we're going to continue, with an interview from our comrades in Venezuela as well. So, Uhuru.
Pues sí, Esperamos que ustedes dos pueden quedarse más tiempo junto con nosotros y así después si tiene otras preguntas podemos tratar sus preguntas después. Y ahora vamos a seguir con el programa y habrá también una entrevista con unos compañeros de Venezuela.
Ok, excelente, excelente. Vamos a estar atentos entonces.
Okay, excellent. We'll be on it then.
Right on. Uhuru.
Perfecto. Uhuru.
Perfecto. So
Uhuru.
Uhuru. Right on, comrades. Just really wanted to thank you so much to our interpreter, to Ardito and his mother, Compañera Lopez, for being here on this call. All your profound contributions. We're going to move our program with an interview with Comrade Jesus Rodriguez Espinosa, who is the editor and founder of Orinoco Tribune, and also a member of the of the Latin America front of the Hands Off Uhuru struggle. And I also want to invite up another comrade who is a leading member of this front as well, Comrade Paulo Cruzalegui, who is the founder of Los Ronderos de las Redes, and who is also a member of the Fightback Coalition and is going to be leading this interview with Comrade Jesus. It's important as I wait for Comrade Paulo. Oh, I see you there. With the world represented behind you. Comrade, want to appreciate you for being on. I see you, Comrade Jesus. Thank you both. I'm going to turn it to you now for this important segment of today's program. So Uhuru, welcome.
Uhuru, thank you, Amwesi. Uhuru, compañero Jesus. Before we get to the questions, I want to reiterate that Hands Up Uhuru stands in full solidarity with the people of Venezuela, with your democratically elected President Nicolas Maduro and the first combatant Silva Flores, and with the Bolivarian Revolution that Comandante Hugo Chavez initiated more than 20 years ago. We denounce the abduction and imprisonment of the 2 prisoners of war held in Brooklyn, New York, in violation of the international law. In the UN Charter Article 2, it prohibits the threat of use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. So, compañero Jesus, with the sanctions, ongoing bombings of fishing boats, illegal kidnapping, and the hybrid war waged primarily by the US, can you summarize the US attack on the 3rd of January and speak on the aftermath with Delcy Rodriguez leading the Bolivarian Revolution as the new president?
Hi, Paulo. Yes, of course. Uhuru to everyone, and a big hug to the compass in Ecuador. And yes, I mean, this is all connected. And I believe that the genocide in Gaza was the first enable, the biggest enable to what we have been seeing in recent weeks or months. When the US and Israel realized that they were able to commit a genocide on live television, I believe that after that they realized that they were going to be able to do whatever they want. So I believe that's extremely important to recognize that, like the first antecedent to what happened recently in Venezuela, and which is somehow also represents a show this next stage in colonial imperialism coming from the US, a stage that they have clearly, expressed in its national security doctrine document that was published a few months ago, but in which they are claiming Latin America as their backyard to secure the natural resources of the region, mostly, which is the nature of capitalism, the predatory imperialism and colonialism. So, yes, I mean, and the worst part of that document is that they believe, I'm talking about the gringos, the imperialism, that they are going to be able to make I mean, that they believe that they are in the 80s or the 70s where imperialism was mighty financially talking and was able to convince some people around the world in Latin America about the positive aspects of imperialism of that model. But right now, that's not the case. I mean, imperialism is weak, extremely weak financially, and the only tool that they have is war, is militarism, and that's what we have been seeing. So in that sense, it's important to look at this sequence of events that has been happening. You know, Gaza, the killing of the fishermen in Latin America, that's something terrible that is happening and continues to happen. And right now, as it was explained by the Compass in Ecuador, that is happening also in Ecuador. You know, with the help of Novoa. And that will spread all over the region if we don't do something to stop it. And after, you know, the killing of those fishermen and poor people in Latin America by U.S. imperialism happens the invasion of the bombing of Venezuela on January 3rd. And then came Iran, and we have seen the marvelous, the wonderful, the strong response of the Iranian people and the Iranian army, which is something that sadly we didn't see in Venezuela, and many of us were expecting to give a help to the U.S., but that didn't happen, and there were some flaws in our defenses, and we have to admit that. And the next scenario might be Cuba, and we have to be very aware of that. I mean, Cuba is being the target of the U.S. and sooner rather than later, the imperialism is going to try to strangulate and control and bomb or invade Cuba. So we need to oppose that by all means necessary. So the current situation in Venezuela is the situation of a government trying to survive under a terrible duress imposed by U.S. militarism. That's a fact. What we need to recognize that. But we also need to recognize that Chavismo remains in power in Venezuela. And that's extremely important. And that says a lot about how a political movement like Chavismo, like the Bolivarian Revolution, is really rooted within the Venezuelan, the majority of Venezuela. And for that reason, the imperialism and colonialism was not able to achieve their goals, at least completely. So that's really amazing, unprecedented, if you ask me. And that forced somehow the U.S. imperialism to sit with Chavismo, and of course, under pressure, under duress, to obtain some gains out of that military attack against Venezuela. So that's the situation in Venezuela. Chavismo is in control. We are still promoting the same values that Chavismo has been promoting for the last 20 years. We are promoting, strengthening the communal movement with popular consultations. But of course, we are giving concessions under duress to U.S. imperialism. And of course, that's somehow raised against us, the regular Chavistas, not the people in the government or the leadership, but the regular Chavistas in Venezuela. So we are trying to be aware of that and let the government know that when they when they cross one of those red flags, we are going to be there to let the government know and the leadership know that we know that they are, somehow giving concessions to imperialism, but that they cannot, cross that red line. So that's our work as grassroots organizers, as people in the grassroots movement, and we will keep doing that. And we know that the Venezuelan government the Chavista government in Venezuela will respond to the demands of the people as it usually has been doing for the last 20 years. So the support is there. Chavismo is still strong. it's great that the imperialists were not able to impose a puppet government with Maria Corina Machado, for example, or some terrible, politician, far-right politician like Milei or Noboa or Bukele in other parts of the continent. So at least at this moment, we in Venezuela and people around the world should realize that despite all these smearing campaigns against Delcy Rodriguez and against Chavismo after the January 3rd attack, is incredibly, there's a humongous difference between what we have today in Venezuela if you compare it with what the Argentinians have with Milei, or the Ecuadorians with Noboa, or the Salvadorians with Bukele. So we need to be aware of that also.
Uhuru, muchas gracias, compañero Jesus. My second question is, shifting from Caracas, Venezuela to the New York with the trial, as we are only 5 days away from the political trial for Maduro and the Flores, can you talk about the kangaroo court hearing that the president and the first combatants face in the Southern District of New York on the 26th of March, and what people can expect to happen in the process? And as well as the solidarity actions in New York City, so people can participate too.
Yes, I mean, that's basically that, a kangaroo court, and everyone knows that President Maduro doesn't have any relation with drug trafficking or anything like that. That's just an excuse that imperialism found to try to support the atrocious events that they launched against Venezuela on January 3rd. But the reality is that he is there, and that this is the first time in history, in human history, that a sitting elected president was kidnapped and taken into court, the imperial court. A lot of people talk about Noriega, but Noriega was a different case because he was the head of a military junta at that moment in Panama, so he was not properly a sitting president. So it's important to highlight that. It's important to highlight that connected to that, that means that Maduro was protected by extremely important international law protection, which is the protection that has a sitting head of a state, immunity. And for that reason, he shouldn't be there facing charges in the U.S. To begin with. But we know that that's a political fabrication, and we need to put pressure because I believe that the final decision about what happened to President Maduro and his wife Cilia Flores is going to be a political decision instead of a legal one. That's what usually happens in these kind of situations, and that's what we hope. And for that reason, those mass mobilizations in the U.S. and in Venezuela and other parts of the world, are extremely important. Because it is with political pressure, with international solidarity, international pressure, public opinion, that we are going to be able to have those two great compass free from U.S. imperialism. And it's important to highlight that a few days ago it was ratified that the U.S. revoked the license that was given to the legal representation of President Maduro in order for him to be paid by us, by Venezuela. I mean, his legal defense. So a few days ago, its legal defense introduced a plea requesting all charges to be dropped because it was the U.S. was not providing Maduro with the constitutional rights to have the defense that he needs. So that's basically, those are basically the most recent events in relation to the incarceration of President Maduro and his wife Cilia Flores. And we need to push that. And also it's important, now that we're talking about them, that everything or a lot of what happened decisions taken that some people criticize, especially abroad, about the decisions taken by the Venezuelan government are connected with that. I mean, we have our president kidnapped, and that's one of the most powerful tools that the U.S. imperialists has to force Venezuela to do things that we usually won't be doing. So it's important to connect those things together, to put those things together in order to try to better understand recent decisions made by the Venezuelan Chavista government.
Thank you, Compañero Jesus. My next question is regarding these new formations, this new political, military cooperation that was just formed on the 7th of March, called the Shield of the Americas, and by the Trump administration, where they had all these right-wing figures from throughout Latin America and the Caribbean, from the Trinidad and Tobago, the Dominican Republic, Costa Rica, Honduras, Panama, Ecuador, Paraguay, Chile, and Argentina too. And so all these forces, including El Salvador, I forgot to mention, we're seeing how this is a new formation, like the Lima Group or things like that that are politically isolating the Troika of resistance. And the Troika resistance is including Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Cuba. So, at the same time, after the 7th of March, in the following days, we're seeing how Ecuador is acting like a proxy state for the U.S. to act in conflict with Colombia on the border, and with the U.S. troops in Ecuador advising the military over there. So U.S. SOCOM is all involved in this hemisphere throughout there. And Guyana as well is involved on the eastern side of Venezuela to put more pressure around Guyana. And so these types of military cooperation agreements that the U.S. is creating is further to put more troops, U.S. troops across the Americas, and do more trainings, and provide more weaponry, and it is very concerning for all of Latin America, and people, of course, that are not with these governments. The people are resisting individually, in their homelands throughout the Americas and the Caribbean. Could you touch on this aspect now of how we're essentially losing the zone of peace here in this region of the world, and how the solidarity, international solidarity, is the key right now for Cuba, as the siege on Cuba is happening, been ongoing, and there's been convoys and humanitarian aid being brought to there, and at the same time the solidarity for Venezuela, along with their political prisoners too.
Yes, I mean, it is not new that the U.S. has been trying for the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 decades to create groups like this. You mentioned the last one, which was Lima Group, that they has been, switching and changing names for all this group over the decades. But is the intention, I mean, is the natural intention of U.S. imperialism to control the region and to have as many puppets in the region that allow them to continue their colonialist exploitation of our resources? That's their main goal of U.S. imperialism in the region. So the Shield of the Americas is just a new name for something that has been there for several decades already, but it's worrisome taking into consideration what has been happening around the world and in the region So in that sense, we need to be very aware that the White House, especially under Trump, won't stop with all those 12 government, I believe, that participated out of 33, I believe, or 36 republics in the region. So we need to highlight that they represent only 1/3 of the republics in Latin America and the Caribbean. So it's important also to say that they are not the majority. But of course, they try to make noise with that. And of course, they are threatening Venezuela, they are threatening Cuba, Nicaragua, and also Colombia, Brazil, and Mexico. And it's a fact that Novoa is with the U.S. Bombing areas near the border with Colombia. And that's because there will be elections in a few weeks in Colombia, and the gringos want to have one that the progressive forces in Colombia don't win those elections. But according to most polls, there's a big chance for the left forces in Colombia to win those elections. And for that reason, they are going to try to intensify the attacks against Petro, as they already announced it a few hours ago, but also the friction between Peru and Colombia, and we will see that also to happen, and we are seeing that happening around Cuba, and many experts say that eventually the gringos, some far-right analysts claim that by the end of the year, Cuba might have collapsed. So we need to oppose that, and we need to do everything in our hands to oppose that. Nicaragua is something that they are going to go after if they manage to deal with Cuba, to control Cuba, and Mexico also. I mean, the possibility of U.S. military strikes against Mexico under the excuse of narco trafficking and narco terrorists or whatever is extremely high. So that might be the next step after they get rid of Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. So we need to be aware of that. But we need to let the people know that the importance of resistance. I mean, we need to fight back. We need to avoid those things to happen, and we need to intensify our solidarity force and our political training force, because you hear a lot of people, not only in Latin America, but all over the world, not understanding very clearly the implications of what means to defend the sovereign causes, like the one in Venezuela, like the one in Nicaragua or Cuba. And this anti-communist propaganda that has been there for decades has been strengthening in recent weeks or months, and we need to oppose that. And there's a lot of people confused, and following and swallowing all this propaganda against, the narco the government of Venezuela, or the authoritarianism of President Maduro, which was a big lie, and that propaganda, and the narco-terrorist control of Mexico or Colombia. We need to oppose that, but we need to have clarity. And for that to achieve that, it's extremely important to have better political training.
Yes, thank you. I just want to wrap up saying, what can people here on this webinar do to stand with Venezuela, and as well for Cuba? Right now, we're seeing immense support, but for Venezuela, for the kidnapped president and the first combatant.
Yes, I mean that what I was saying, strengthening international solidarity and strengthening initiatives like this one, hands, of Latin America and this coalition that was formed by the Uhuru Compass, and strengthening solidarity and political training. That is extremely important, and inviting people to look for alternative ways to, access information, to read the international and local information, because media is the main tool, and social media platforms are the main tool they use to spread all these twisted ideologies and ideas. and we need to fight back that. So I believe that that's most important thing. Of course, we need to have more radical way to oppose that we cannot talk on a webinar. But those are also important steps that we might need to think about if we see that the trend of predatory and bloody U.S. imperialism continues to spread out around the region. You know, if you are if you are threatened with being exterminated, you need to find more radical ways to defend yourself.
Oh, I don't know if you're unmuting, Paulo. Looks like
Uhuru,
yeah.
I'll just pass it on to you.
Okay, well,
thank you, Compañero Jesus.
Uhuru. Yes, and thank you, Paulo. I was gonna see if you had any closing, but I just really wanted to appreciate that last question. And Jesus, also follow Orinoco Tribune. That's another way people can also support this work. I just really wanted to appreciate that opportunity to speak with you directly about the work on the ground that is, what is to be done, as well as what we're seeing on the ground in Venezuela. You, Comrade Paulo, for your analysis and just your contributions to this as well, as a journalist yourself, really understanding the importance of us building, as the chairman says, dual, as we are building in the Uhuru movement as well, dual and contending power. So where they have their media, we build our own, and it is, speaking, for the interests of the people. So forwarding the struggle for anti-colonial free speech. And as Jesus says, solidarity and political training, because the war of ideas is so essential in this struggle as well. So thank you so much, comrades, for your contributions.
Uhuru.
And we're going to, yes, Uhuru, un abrazo, Jesus, and I hope you will stay for questions as well. I just want to take a quick moment to thank, everybody who is still, on the agenda or on the program, those who have come on since we've begun, and also to thank our donors. We'll get another update as we move on, but I want to thank those who have already gone to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. And if you go there, you will see the page looks a little different, and that'll give you a little bit indication of, where we're going with our appeal later on. But I want to thank Brendan. I want to thank Johan, MQ, Sandy, Anne, Jainaba, and Unemployed Scholar who's following us on YouTube. Thank you all for your contributions and for going to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. We will give an update on our total a little bit later, but we want to encourage comrades to go there and donate, and also to unite with what Comrade Jesus, mentioned, but also what Comrade Paulo was also discussing around the forwarding to the March 26th trial of Maduro and Flores. And so we have up there on the screen, we want to call on everybody to join us, join the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition, as well as other endorsing organizations who are united with being outside at the courthouse on March 26th in New York. And so if you know somebody in that area and you want to get there and you need to be there yourself, come and stand behind, stand behind the banner, stand behind the organizations that are pulling this together. We want you to be with Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition in this struggle as well. And many of the organizations that you see there are already part of this struggle. So we will have a united front on March 26th. You can learn more information by emailing us at coalition@handsoffuhuru.org or just get there, as we say. So 8 a.m. March 26th. There will be lots of media and others there, and we will make sure that the people also have a presence. So I want to just do a transition now. We're going to bring up our dear comrade, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, to give to provide us with an overview and analysis on today's theme, hands off Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, and why we say victory to African and all oppressed peoples of the world. We had a very important webinar. Part of our program was to, help us touch base with the struggles as we see it throughout the Americas. But as we understand, this is a struggle for all colonized peoples everywhere. And Chairman Omali Yeshitela is a part of leading that struggle since the Black Revolution was crushed in the 1960s, and forming the African People's Socialist Party with the goal to complete that revolution and also to forward the global anti-colonial struggle. And so that is what we are doing. That is what Chairman Omali Yeshitela represents. So I just want to appreciate you, Chairman, for being on today's program. You are located in St. Louis, Missouri, which is, where these attacks happen and where so much of the anti-colonial dual power work is being, is taking place. So thank you, Chairman, and I'll turn it to you. Uhuru.
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 I want to express my appreciation to you, Comrade Chairwoman Mwezi, to Comrade Penny Hess, the co-chair, vice chair, to everyone who's participating in this very important webinar that we are involved in today. I want to give a special shout of appreciation to Comrade Jesus, who is there on the front lines. And that's obviously very different from people who are simply expressing opposition and perhaps organizing protests in some place around the world to be there to anticipate, as the people in Venezuela were anticipating for so many months, the attack that did occur finally on January 3rd, that kidnapped the president of Venezuela. And I want to also express appreciation to the comrades Penny Hess and Jesse Neville, who were part of the Uhuru 3, and to first combatant Comrade Onizene Yeshitela, whose work on the ground here in St. Louis in particular, but other places and otherwise throughout our party, et cetera, contributed to the conclusion that the U.S. government came to, that they had to attack us just as they attacked Venezuela, just as they attacked Palestine, just as they attacked various other forces, Iran fighting for liberation, initially trying to do the same thing in terms of decapitating our movement with an attack on my home that I shared with Comrade Onizene Yeshitela, attack on Comrades Penny Hess and Jesse Neville, who provide leadership for the solidarity component of our organization. So this is something that we're quite familiar with. And I want to remind everyone that all of us are under attack. This is something that we hear being stated in various ways up to now during this process. But I want to say a few other things about that. And first of all, Uhuru means freedom. But when we say Uhuru, it's not simply a literal translation of a Swahili word. Uhuru means freedom in resistance, freedom through resistance. The way the world came to know Uhuru was not as simply a translation of a Swahili word. It was by the Kenyan Land Freedom Army that went up against the British Empire in the 1940s and 50s and held the British Empire at bay for a long period of time. That lost where England killed at least 300,000 African people there in Kenya. And that also made a strategic blow to the colonial mode of production, so that whatever they had planned for British-held territories, they could not do it in the same way because they had to anticipate the kind of resistance and the inspiration that was given to Africa as a consequence of the Kenyan Land Freedom Army, or Mau Mau. Comrade Patrice Lumumba used the term Uhuru. Our party and movement used the term Uhuru. Malcolm X talked about Uhuru. Assata Shakur, when she was freed, the first word in the statement that she made after having been freed was Uhuru. And so it's not just an interpretation of a Swahili word, it is a freedom through resistance. freedom as resistance, et cetera, the colonial system that we are dealing with. So I think it's really important to make that point. And it's important because, in part, we are having this discussion today, in part, because in many ways of the success of the anti-colonial independence movements. Before the success of the anti-colonial independence movements, we saw the struggle for independence, for freedom against colonialism was not being something primarily done by states and by heads of states. Generally speaking, with of course, exceptions like Cuba and Algeria, and there were other places, masses of people around the world were involved in the struggle against colonialism. We're talking about in the 1950s even, where a major event was held in Indonesia to develop an anti-colonial movement. Malcolm X spoke about that, and he talked about the white man was not invited, could not attend. This was just for the colonized peoples of the world. This is in the 1950s. And then, of course, in 1960s, right there in Cuba, we saw UPHeld form. That is the Organization of Solidarity between Latin America, Africa and Latin America, UPHeld. This was an anti-colonial movement that recognized the universality of the struggle that we were involved in. This was the struggle that we were making to remove ourselves from this situation of seeing every incident, every separate struggle as a single incident, a single struggle, not being able to recognize that we were dealing with a system, a whole system. And that part of that, of course, is that most of the progressives we know have come to understand some things like the modes of production. And Karl Marx played a really important role in helping to understand that. And from Karl Marx's understanding, we came to recognize that capitalism was a mode of production. There's several modes of production, each coming into existence in some kind of stair-step fashion as a consequence of the contradictions that emerged in the previous mode of production. And so what we have come to understand is that feudalism was a mode of production, out of which grew capitalism as another mode of production. But that was European-based that we were talking about, because feudalism was a mode of production in Europe primarily. I'm not saying that there were not other places in the world that have features of what we know as feudalism, but I'm saying the feudalism that we had talked about, that where we make our definitions, come from what was happening in Europe. And out of this feudalism in Europe, we have see the emergence of another mode of production called capitalism. But to get to capitalism, we saw that it was necessary for Marx to answer the question, how the hell do you have a capitalist, how do you get capitalist production out of feudalism? How does that come about? And what he indicated was, for this to come about, was there something like a mode of production preceding capitalism. He didn't call it mode of production, he called it primitive accumulation. He said it came about as a consequence of enslaving, turning Africa into a war for the commercial hunting of slaves. He said it come about as in turning the indigenous people in the Americas into the mines, bringing up gold and silver for the Americas. It came about as a consequence of the attack that was made on what was characterized as East India at the time, and bringing all kinds of resources, killing millions of people in the process, disappearing their whole peoples who do not exist anymore as a consequence of that. And the fact is that a third of the African population was killed as a part of that process. And we say a third of the African population, there was an estimated 600 million Black people on the world, on the face of the earth, or in Africa when this attack happened. And as a consequence of what they did to us and continue to do us, they killed something like 200 million African people. This is how this whole process came into existence. It's important for us to understand this. We try to bring as much as we can science into this discussion. And science does not necessarily mean that you come up with readily made kinds of slogans, solutions that can fit the slogans or whatever is how do you characterize it when something was streaming on social media or something like that. This is not what we're looking at. We're talking about getting to the source of the contradiction. And the source of the contradiction is we're living in a world today that is a consequence of a colonial mode of production. Before the attack on Africa 600 years ago, there was no such thing as a world economy. The world economy was pulled together as a part of that process. And this is where Africans were forcibly dispersed all around the world. Venezuela itself came about as a consequence of that process. Cuba came about as a consequence of that process. And all of what we look at in America, in the Americas in particular, was born of that process. And even Europe itself as a concept was born from this process that we are talking about. So the reason I'm saying this is I think that to explain why we have in this meeting, hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. That's what it's called. Hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, hands off the resistance, hands off Africa, because we recognize it's more than just something that's happening to us in North St. Louis. That's where they attacked us at this time in North St. Louis, but they've attacked us in Kenya. They've attacked us in Jamaica. They've attacked us all around the world. So how do we pull it together to unite the resistance and organizationally, ideologically, and what have you? That's what we've been involved in doing. And that's why we're here in this meeting, hands off Uhuru. That's why we open up a Latin America front to bring organization and coherence to the struggle that we're involved in throughout the Americas and throughout the world. This is critical to our understanding of what it is that we have to do and how we have to fight back. Somebody said, what is it that we have to do? First thing that we have to do is recognize that we're not looking at a Venezuelan problem. We're looking at a problem of colonialism. We're looking at a very wounded social system that relies on being able to continue to suck the blood of the colonized peoples of the world. And we see that this colonial mode of production, the fabric of this whole system is rending all around the world. It's rending in Iran. They control Iran all this time. They had this puppet that they put in place to control Iran. They attacked Iran, not just this time, but early on in the 1950s when they overthrew Mohammad Mossadegh. They attacked Iran in 1980 when they facilitated the attack by Iraq on Iran right after the revolution that happened in Iran, because they thought Iran would be too feeble to be able to fight back against what they'd done. But Iran fought them in the 1980s and fought for 8 years with 1 million people at least being killed in that struggle. And this stupidity that they think they can run over to Iran right now and just take over and just bomb and kill some leaders and everybody's going to surrender. No, 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 no. Che Guevara said it best, we call for 2-3 mini Vietnams, and that's what we need to understand when we're talking about a mode of production. He was able to say 2-3 mini Vietnams because that was the time where Cuba, where the revolutionary forces around the world understood that we were looking at a single mode of production and that they had to make them fight on every front. That's why he said mini Vietnams. He didn't say just simply go out and protest about what's happening in Vietnam. He said, make Vietnam where you are, 2-3 mini Vietnams. And that's what we understand when we're looking at, we recognize we're looking at a mode of production. And colonialism is a mode of production. So I wanted to quickly say that. And also I wanted to quickly say that part of our strategy called for come at Penny Hess, who's sitting on this platform with me, and come at Jesse Neville, who's out of camera range, in the sense that the strategy calls for not just having them to demonstrate against what's happening in a particular incident, though we do that. We hold some of the most serious mobilizations, demonstrations, protests that you can find, but that's not what it's about. It's about advancing the struggle against colonialism, and they are behind enemy lines. They're among the colonizers. And what we have is a situation where the colonizer population is not recognizing its own culpability in what's happening to the masses of peoples around the world on their watch, their name. We're not going to let them get away with it. We're going to say, we know you don't support, in this country, in America, we know you don't really support the people who are struggling in Venezuela. You don't support the struggle in Iran. How the hell can you be against Palestinian colonialism on the one hand, when you're not against colonialism right here in St. Louis where you live, right here in the United States? When you see African people suffering these consequences, nobody even talks about the First Nation people, the indigenous population. This is a settler colony. And this is what has to be uprooted in terms of the consciousness of the people here and around the world, that this country is a settler colony, the indigenous people, the land taken from them, millions of them exterminated as part of the process of doing that. Millions, how many kidnapped people? You want to talk about kidnapping? You want to talk about what happened with Maduro, which is horrible. But I'm a kidnapped victim myself. African people who live in the Americas are kidnapped victims, but the ones who claim to be sympathetic to what's happening in Venezuela, I'm talking about white leftists, I'm talking about colonial leftists, do not struggle to end the kidnapping that's happened to African people here. Do not struggle against the colonial domination of the indigenous people. Do not struggle against the fact that something like half of Mexico was stolen from them. They're not involved in that struggle. And I mentioned Indonesia and the, what was that conference called in Indonesia? Bandung Conference. That was an extraordinary conference. And that was in what, 1953, something like that. And then, of course, we know what the CIA induced in Indonesia in 1965, where they killed 1 million. The CIA initiated a process in Indonesia that killed 1 million Indonesians to prevent this anti-colonial revolutionary movement from being successful. They assassinated people who were involved in the struggle against colonialism as a mode of production. Che Guevara, he was born in Argentina, but he went to Cuba and went to Mexico to fight for the Cuban Revolution, went to Africa to try to initiate a continental-wide guerrilla war to overturn imperialism there, to overturn the whole colonial mode of production. He didn't call it the colonial mode of production, but that's what he was fighting. And so what I'm saying is we have to do everything that the comrades here have talked about. And we have to recognize, even when the comrades were talking about in Ecuador, fighting for, somebody said something about fighting for the working class. Well, you got to remember that the working class in Ecuador, I'm talking about the colonizers. I'm talking about the indigenous people, the ones who were singing that song that we appreciate so much, etc. They are in the situation they are as a consequence of the birth of the working class on the backs of the indigenous people who are right there. And I just think that we have to fight as well as we can to achieve the science, unite who can be united. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I'm not some hardcore demagogic leftist or something to that effect. I'm saying that we have to finally apply science to what it is that's happening to us in the world. And that means that we have to have cold-blooded analysis and not simply be falling around an analysis that came 50 or 100 years ago, because that's what's been leading up to now. If it were successful, the majority of the people who are oppressed in the world today are colonized people. And somehow it didn't seem to lift us up out of this situation. I appreciate the internationalism we see in Cuba and Hugo Chavez and Venezuela and, the magnificent FSLN revolution. I was in Nicaragua shortly after the revolution. So I'm sympathetic to that. And I want to just appreciate everybody. And I know I probably overspoke my time, but Uhuru, comrades.
Uhuru, Chairman. Wow, just it's very clear in the chat and elsewhere, just the unity with your statement, with your analysis, Chairman. And I just want to, before we move on in the program, I just really want to, one, appreciate you, Chairman, for, what I failed to explain earlier, which is, the origin of this struggle, and, essential when we say Uhuru, the history behind that, which was rooted, in the resistance against colonialism. And so I just wanted to appreciate that intervention, Chairman, and also, the importance of what you talk about in terms of us understanding the origin of this struggle, must be a struggle against colonialism. I just think it's an important, point what the chairman has raised around, why we have built this Latin America front. And as the chairman talked about, to bring coherence, to this struggle, for freedom, as it's tied to Latin America, our struggles are inextricably linked. And then just your last point that one of the points that you made, Chairman, around, just the colonial leftists, the question of solidarity with African, indigenous, and all colonized nice people, and calling on everyone who is of the colonizer population to join the struggle against colonialism, like you said, not just in Palestine and the struggle in Venezuela, but also here as it relates to settler colonialism. And we even we have on our comrades from Unión del Barrio. One of the comrades is on right now, Compa Benjamin, who are part of that struggle, and with who we stand in unconditional solidarity with. And so this is a struggle from Alaska to Chile, and the colonized people are leading this struggle, and those who want to be on the right side of freedom, or of history, should see an interest in participating in this fight back as well. So thank you so much, Chairman, and we will have a chance for questions later as well. But as it relates to the Uhuru 3, what the chairman is has talked about, we say hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. This fight back was born in response to those attacks, which we are still involved in today. As we say, it is not over. And so I'm going to turn it over to our comrades, two of our dear comrades. I'm going to first turn it over to Comrade Amanda, who is leading the fundraising work of this Fight Back Coalition. Comrade Amanda is going to take us through the appeal, what has been raised, what is to be raised, and then we're going to hear from Comrade Chair Jesse, another one of the Uhuru 3, who will talk to us about the appeal that was filed and the work that is building towards oral arguments, as well as this campaign, the Foreign Agent Registration Act campaign that we have launched, in response to that. So Uhuru, Comrade Amanda, great to see you on. Uhuru, Comrade.
And
Uhuru, Chairman, Uhuru. And I believe Jesse was going to do this part with me as well.
Great. Okay, that's right.
Uhuru. So we can pull up the slideshow that we put together while we're waiting for that. Very quick, thank you. But anyway, we're going to thank people who have donated so far today. We have Brendan, who gave 40, Johan, who gave 50, MQ, who gave 20, Sandra gave 25, Anne gave 25, Janaba gave $5, an anonymous person on YouTube gave $3, Dylan gave 25, Cho and Penny, we heard, is going to give 100, Ruby gave 50, Kitty and Emmy, who are in the room with us, Uhuru comrades, gave 40, and then we have Mauricio, who gave $260. And we're going to hear a little bit more about this next from Jesse, but the fight continues, and we today are raising money for the oral arguments fees. So we can go to the next slide. So while we're speaking here, everyone can go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. What you're going to see, like Chair Moisey mentioned, is a new fundraising page putting out that we are raising right now $10,000 needed for the oral arguments fees. Go to the next slide here. So this is what is needed to cover those oral arguments fees. Go to the next slide, and you can give by your card, directly from your bank, PayPal, donor advised funds, crypto, stocks, or Venmo online. So it's very convenient. Any way that you can give, you can go and do that today. You are also welcome to send checks made payable to Hands Off Uhuru to 2654 Gravois Avenue at St. Louis, Missouri, 63118. Go to the next slide here.
Uhuru, Amanda, and Uhuru, everyone. I just want to thank and salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela for that brilliant, just such a sharp, brilliant presentation. Chairman. As well as all of the powerful speakers that we've heard today from across the world in places where people are engaged in struggle against the colonial mode of production, from Ecuador to Venezuela. Salute the resistance in Iran and Cuba and everywhere. And yeah, I'm going to be talking about this more in the next presentation. But as Amanda stated, and as Chair Moisey and others have mentioned throughout this event today has a goal to raise the funds for the oral arguments. And we have a goal to raise at least $2,000 today, but the overall goal is $10,000 to fund the legal fees needed to wage the next stage of the battle to defeat this bogus charge, these vicious colonial attacks against the chairman and the Uhuru movement and anti-colonial free speech. So our goal is 2,000. As Amanda said, we've already raised 668. So there's only $1,332 left to go to reach our goal for today. But if 5 people put in $10,000, we would meet our goal 100%. What?
$2,000.
What did I say? Okay, sorry. Wow. Okay, that's probably not going to be the last time I do that. I have no idea what I said, but if 5 people do $2,000, there we go. We will be able to go ahead and make this happen. So you can go to handsoffahuru.org/donate. And I love what the chairman said. Hands off Uhuru. Uhuru means freedom, freedom and resistance. And when we talk about freedom of speech, that's what anti-colonial free speech is. It's not just free speech in general. It's the freedom of speech to resist, to oppose colonialism, to fight for the liberation of African and colonized peoples. And that's what this appeal represents. So winning this appeal will be a victory for freedom of anti-colonial speech. For all freedom-fighting peoples around the world, this will be a tremendous precedent-setting victory.
We can go to the next slide here. So what does that mean to set a precedent? Again, Jesse here will talk more in the next segment, but it's sending a clear message that free speech cannot be criminalized simply by labeling you a foreign agent. And while we were speaking, Lisa contributed $50. Uhuru, Lisa.
Lisa.
And Lisa in Minneapolis.
Okay.
Lisa W. And Chair Mwezi gave $25. Uhuru. We can go to the next slide here. So thanks to all of you, we do have and have had since the very beginning, almost, a very powerful legal team that is ready to continue this fight. Go to the next slide here. Over the past 4 years, we have raised over $500,000, not including the pro bono contributions that I will talk about next, to go to trial and win. And then most recently, we have raised and contributed $60,000 to retain the legal team to file the appeal. Uhuru, you want to do this one?
Uhuru, we want to salute the amazing, brilliant, courageous Uhuru 3 legal team that were just honed to a sharp edge by the political training and leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and who took it on so brilliantly in the court and in every other stage of the legal process and continue to do so. And that includes, of course, Mutaki Akbar, who famously said the words "Uhuru means freedom" in the federal court during the trial, the bold and relentless Ardi Griffin, as well as Tom Inskeep, who is also just an incredible attorney that works with Ardi, and Leonard Goodman, the brilliant attorney out of Chicago, Leonard Goodman, who played the key leading role in authoring the motion for the dismissal of the indictment and many other motions along the way, and who has represented Chairwoman Penny Hess formerly and the Uhuru 3 overall pro bono throughout the time that he's represented this case. And Leonard Goodman also, for the trial, hired this absolutely incredible attorney named Angela Rainey. And since then, Angela Rainey has established her own private practice and has continued to stay on representing the Uhuru 3, now herself pro bono. Uhuru.
We can go to the next slide here. So again, donate today. When you go to the website, handsoffahuru.org/donate, you will see that this progress bar has already increased thanks to all of you. And what we have raised so far today is $718. So for today's portion of the goal, 1,282 left to go. But I do want to really encourage everybody watching to really think about what you can contribute to this $10,000 need for these oral arguments fees. We will be reaching out to organization leaders. Many of you have already done this in the past, but going back to your own organization, putting out this need and contributing anywhere from $500 to $1,000 together. Again, many of you have done this over the past 4 years, and we really appreciate that. And that was a tremendous component of being able to raise the funds needed for this legal team since the very beginning. And individuals as well. If you can give $1,000, if you can give, like Chair Jesse said, $2,000, if you can give $10,000, do not hesitate to do so. This is very important, not just for the Uhuru 3, but for all people fighting for anti-colonial free speech all over the world. Uhuru.
Uhuru, and I will put in $100.
Uhuru.
Uhuru. Uhuru. So we're wrapping up this section of the program, and I'm gonna just move right into talking more about the specifics of where the Uhuru 3 case is at. But we want to continue to encourage people to contribute throughout the rest of this program. If I don't want to do another math thing, but I think if like 11 people matched me at $100, we would reach our goal for today. Match me and Chairwoman Penny, who also put in 100.
Yes.
We can reach our goal of $2,000 for today.
I will put in 100.
Amanda's going to put in 100. We're almost halfway there. We're at $918. So I think now it's actually about 11 people matching us at $100. Uhuru. Go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate.
Great. Thank you, comrades.
Uhuru.
Can you remind us where are we at right now with our total, Chair Amanda?
Oh, well, forgive me. I missed some donations. I want to say that Robert Brown gave $20.
Robert.
And then one second, opening up this other email, Maureen also matched Chairwoman Penny and Chair Jesse and now myself and gave $100.
Uhuru.
We surpassed 1,000. We have raised 1,038 today. The program is not over. If you want more information on what it means to set a precedent before you make your donation, that is coming up next. Uhuru.
Uhuru. All right. Well, let's turn it over to Chair Jesse. Thank you so much, comrades, for that update on our appeal. And let's make that goal by going to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. Uhuru.
Uhuru. All right, so we can pull up the slides on the update on the case. Okay, so this presentation is called "It's Not Over. What's Next for the Case of the Uhuru 3?" And again, I want to salute the profound leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela, all of the speakers on today's webinar, as well as Chairwoman Penny Hess, who's seated next to me now, one of the Uhuru 3, the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee. And I also want to salute Deputy Chair Nukanchik YaYa and all of her leadership that the chairman referred to earlier, building the independent anti-colonial African economy that the US government unsuccessfully tried to crush with this vicious attack. And also want to salute our chair, Mwezi Odom, the chair of the Hands Off Uhuru campaign. And just reiterate the theme of this event: victory to Cuba, Iran, Venezuela, Ecuador, and African and indigenous people in the US and around the world in the struggle to defeat the colonial mode of production. So I want to start off again by saying that it's not over. In 2026, the Uhuru 3 are going back to court. We won a major victory in 2024 and 2025, actually. And now it's time to bring it home by overturning the bogus thought crime conspiracy conviction that the prosecutors were able to secure through lies and distortions and misleading and confusing jury instructions, much of which is challenged in our appeal. So what I want to talk about now is why this upcoming stage of the battle is actually the most important one so far. And the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Hands Off Uhuru has gotten us to this point. We have to go this next stretch and take it home to victory. So we need your support today, as we've been talking about, to make this happen. And again, people can contribute at handsoffuhuru.org/donate. So the chairman said from the very beginning, when this attack took place on July 29th of 2022, that the attack on the chairman and the Uhuru movement was the canary in the coal mine, that it was a sign of the deepening repression that was on the horizon. And in the nearly 4 years since the FBI raided the Uhuru movement, those words have proven to be completely accurate. We've seen, you see in this picture here, long before the ubiquitous presence of armed federal troops all over the streets of this country, armed federal troops were all over the streets of North St. Louis and South St. Petersburg, attacking the home of Chairman Omali and Deputy Chair Nukanchik YaYa, as well as other locations and properties of the Uhuru movement, including the Uhuru House in St. Petersburg. So since then, we've seen the escalation of attacks by ICE, by National Guards deployed in African communities throughout this country, attacks on Mexican and African communities from Somalia and Minneapolis. The National Security Memo by the National Security Presidential Memo 7, where Trump announced that he would actually be intensifying the use of the Foreign Agent Registration Act to go after organizations and individuals that the US government wants to target. And even Tucker Carlson recently announced that he is potentially facing charges by the Department of Justice, the same exact charges that the chairman and the Uhuru 3 faced. In his case, accusing him of being a foreign agent of Iran because he has spoken out against the US government's attacks on Iran and against the Israeli settler colonial state. So the Uhuru 3 trial was and is the anti-colonial free speech trial of the century. And while we're going to talk about legal precedents, what the chairman helped us to understand is that the real precedent was put in place the moment the chairman held that press conference on the steps of his house, just less than an hour or so after the last FBI vehicle left North St. Louis. And that political precedent is that when you fight, you win. When we fight, we win. That's the precedent that this campaign was really out to prove, and that is continuing to be proven today. In the courts, the Hands Off Uhuru and the legal team defeated the main charge that the chairman and the Uhuru 3 faced of being so-called unregistered foreign agents of the Russian government, destroying the US government's political objective to try to discredit the voice of the African working class by saying that when African people call for reparations or expose and condemn genocide or criticize police murder and mass imprisonment, that somehow that these expressions are the product of a Russian plot. That political objective was defeated. But the Uhuru 3 were convicted on the conspiracy charge, a thought crime, an illogical, inconsistent verdict, guilty of conspiracy to do the same thing the Uhuru 3 were found not guilty of actually doing, specifically to hide from the United States government that we were Russian agents, which the jury agreed the chairman never was a Russian agent in the first place. So this is what our appeal looks at, among other things, is how this happened, the confusing jury instructions, to put it mildly, prosecutorial misconduct, and malicious lies put out by the prosecutors in their closing arguments. And then we went to the sentencing in December of 2024, as people remember, and the government really wanted Chairman Omali Yeshitela to go to prison. They practically begged that judge to put the chairman in prison and to impose a massive fine of hundreds of thousands of dollars on Chairman Omali Yeshitela and to imprison Chairwoman Penny and myself. And instead, the judge, after having received 1,600 character letters from people around the world and seeing the mobilization of people in the court, said no one's going to prison, no one's getting a fine, and the Uhuru 3 were sentenced to 3 years of probation, 300 hours of community service, restricted travel, and state supervision. So earlier this year in January, the Uhuru 3 filed for an early termination of probation, and the judge ended the probation nearly 2 years early, stating that despite the government's insistence that the Uhuru 3 represented a grave and mortal threat to national security, that in fact the Uhuru 3 were not a danger to themselves or to society. And in terms of that judge, William F. Jung, this is another quote from him that I think is very important to remember. He said that he was troubled by the verdict. And this is a way that he, many times throughout the trial, before and after the verdict came down, signaled repeatedly that he thought there were serious problems with how this case was carried out, specifically with regards to the conspiracy charge that we were convicted under. Our attorneys actually filed a motion in the middle of the trial asking him to drop the conspiracy charge because they argued how, in this case, the charge that the act that they claimed that the Uhuru 3 conspired to commit was to act as foreign agents without notifying the Attorney General's office. There is no requirement by the government to prove that the Uhuru 3 knew of any such requirements, nor did they prove that the Uhuru 3 knew of any such requirement. Not that that means anyone would have registered because nobody was a foreign agent. But nonetheless, the question that our attorneys posed to the judge is, how can you knowingly and willfully conspire to break a law that you don't even know exists? And that really gave him pause. Unfortunately, well, I don't know, it's hard to say unfortunately, but he did not grant that motion, but he said on the record, between you and me, I hope you're right. He said that based on his interpretation of the case law, he felt like there was nothing he could do, but he kept saying, I hope the 11th Circuit straightens me out. And then after the verdict came down, he said, the court remains troubled that the defendant's knowledge of the notification requirement of 951 was not an element for the government to prove and the jury to determine. How one may conspire to violate a law that one is not aware of and the knowledge of which is not proven at trial, even as a matter of reckless or deliberate ignorance, is a concern for the undersigned. So those were Jung's words. And the fact that he was able to take that position, as the chairman always says, is because the Uhuru movement, Hands Off Uhuru, fought back. Even that motion that was filed, all of the motion, in every sense of the word, is what put him in the position of having to take a different look at that. So coming to the end here, I want to say that the other significance of the approach that Jung took is that, as some of our attorneys and others have pointed out, the only way that our case can actually set a binding legal precedent that can be used by those in the future who face similar charges at the hands of the US government, even if Tucker Carlson got charged and we win the appeal, he would be able to say, well, based on this case, this charge needs to be thrown out. It would be case law. The only way that can happen is by winning on appeal. So the only way you can go to appeal is if we did not win the charge at the original trial.
Right.
So in some ways, Jung may have been aware of that and may have been setting the stage for an actual historic and far-reaching legal precedent to be set. And that is what we intend to do with these oral arguments and with this appeal. So yes, okay. And just moving on. So our appeal was fully briefed last year with the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, and we are now expecting to hear any day now when the oral arguments are going to be. And I just want to put people on notice. The day that we find out about the oral arguments, first of all, there's no way of knowing what day that will be, but we will have exactly 4 weeks from that day to mobilize, to be there, to pack the court and have the same kind of presence that we did at the trial. So we are obviously going to let people know immediately when we find out, but it could be any day. It could be Monday that we find out. And the oral arguments for the second session in April have not yet been set. So there is a looming possibility that we could find out in the next week or so that it's happening in late April. There's no way of knowing again, but it's very possible that we will be finding out very soon. And the oral arguments will be held either in Atlanta or in Miami or Jacksonville, Florida, and we'll be announcing it very broadly. So in the meantime, we're not sitting around waiting. As we get closer to hearing back about the oral arguments, we're moving forward with the campaign to repeal the Foreign Agent Registration Act and the conspiracy laws that are used to attack anti-colonial free speech. And you can take action today. We don't have to wait around to hear about oral arguments. You can take action today by going to handsoffahuru.org/outreach, download the posters, download the flyers, get them printed out, and start promoting the anti-FARA campaign in your community. You can also go to handsoffahuru.org/outreach and find the social media promotional materials to start educating everybody that you know about the need to build a people's movement to bring down these colonial, anti-democratic, and repressive laws. You can organize a forum, a rally, or a teach-in in your community to spread the word about this campaign, about this case, and to continue growing and building Hands Off Uhuru on the ground. And I want to close by quoting a statement by Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who said in a political report written a few years ago, the chairman said that when proto-fascist repression appeared in the US in the 1950s, in what is called the McCarthy era, chasing the Communist Party underground and almost into extinction, it was the colonized African population whose struggles for democracy kept the society open. Ella Baker, Fannie Lou Hamer, Rosa Parks, an army of Africans living near starvation and suffering every imaginable deprivation were the forces that not only defeated US fascism, but forged new definitions of democracy onto the agenda of the US. This is even truer today than it was then. The Uhuru 3 fight back continues to be the tip of the spear. It's not over. Let's take the fight against FARA into the streets and into the courts. We are winning. Hands off Uhuru. Hands off Africa.
Uhuru. Right on. Thank you so much, Chair Jesse, for that overview. And, which is just like a window into the type of work that the Repeal Fire campaign will be taking on, and just to have everybody understand where we are in the process of the appeals and why it's so important for comrades to, help us mobilize wherever we will be on the ground, wherever this appeal will take place. We have comrades, located all throughout the United States, and we really want to, and I want to unite with that call, which, will be, you'll be hearing more for the campaign and how we can, do what we intended to do early on, but what needs to be done everywhere is to have committees that can help forward this work, bring forth the political education on this question, of these conspiracy laws, and help us to, waste the resources, but also bring the masses of people into this struggle, because this is your struggle also. So thank you so much, Chair Jesse, for your work and, on this, and the whole legal support committee who has been such an instrumental part of this fight back as well. So we are moving towards the end of the program, but I wanted to also, bring up our Uhuru 3, our other Uhuru 3, Chairwoman Penny, who, as we talk about Iran and just the chairman's work and the chairman's internationalism, and, why we can sum up everything that is happening around the world, it's important that we provide just a little bit of background and more information on that. So I want to turn it over to Chairwoman Penny as we move towards Q&A and close. Uhuru.
Thank you so much, Chairman YaYa. I just want to say this has been a powerful program. It has been a tremendous honor to be here, along with all of the people who have been on with us today, and with compañero Jesus Rodriguez Espinosa and Comrade Ardi, and all our translator, and of course, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. I just wanted to say something. I just want to take a couple of minutes here, Chairman. I wanted to say that the chairman brought up that Uhuru means freedom through resistance. He brought us the understanding of the science, the colonial mode of production, the fact that colonialism is the essence, the DNA of the political system that we live in, and not a period from 100 years ago or something from the past. And that he brought up the slogan of Che Guevara for 2, 3, many Vietnams, as the chairman just said, that everybody everywhere has to take on making this fight and fighting for the liberation of African and oppressed people around the world, and that this is where we live. Where we are here inside the United States is a settler colony. White people are the colonizers. I am a member of the African People's Solidarity Committee under the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela, with the mandate to go into the white community to organize for genuine solidarity with African liberation and for reparations, the return of the stolen resources. I just wanted to say that for the chairman and the party, the relationship, and I have had the honor of being in APSC since 1976, working under the leadership of the chairman. The chairman has never changed. The chairman has always deeply been involved in and seen other struggles for national liberation as other fronts of the African revolution, not something from afar, not just expressing support. But the chairman has always, and I would like to have really a whole webinar on this, but to show you the length and the depth of which the chairman was always part of the struggle of other people's, one, totally. And this is I just want to show this book here. This is A New Beginning, The Road to Black Freedom and Socialism. This is the main resolution of the party's first political congress that was held in 1981. In 1981, in this, there's a whole section of resolutions on Latin America, and which I don't have time to read the whole thing, but in it, the chairman is saying that, just the deep commitment of the party and the African revolution to the front of Latin America, of what is called Latin America. And he is saying that it supports the struggles of the people in Latin America against imperialism and military dictatorship, that they may be able to determine their own future without foreign intervention. He supports the heroic Cuban Revolution led by the Cuban Communist Party and the great internationalist and comandante Fidel Castro. He talks about the revolution in Nicaragua led by the popular vanguard, the Frente Sandinista de Liberación Nacional, FSLN, which overthrew the hated Somoza regime in 1971, to say that the chairman was friends with, there were Sandinistas who were stationed in San Francisco at the time when the party was based in Oakland. And the comrades, the compañeros and compañeras from the Nicaraguan Revolution were absolute deep friends, but also saw the chairman as their leadership, as their advisor. The chairman was involved on how this revolutionary struggle and how the support has to be developed. And the chairman was invited to the first conference in Managua, yes, or in Nicaragua, for following the victory of the Sandinista revolution. And he was invited to that historic conference, which he attended. The chairman was the first that I ever knew to take a support for the Democratic Front for the movement in El Salvador at the time, which was fighting against U.S. colonial domination. The chairman was there supporting the heroic resistance of the Colombian people. We see Colombia is now under attack. The U.S. government has threatened to go into Colombia and overturn the attack. He was supporting the people of Argentina. This was so powerful, and the people of Chile and Palestine, some of which I know we have friends of this movement now who are the children of people who spoke at the Uhuru House for Argentina and also for Palestine back in the 1970s and 1980s. And this is what the Chairman Omali Yeshitela has done. He was the first to, from the very beginning, I have photographs of leaders of the Uhuru movement, Biko Lumumba, father of Jainaba Lumumba, at a huge rally in San Francisco in support of Leonard Peltier in about 1980 or 80 something, of a picture of Biko Lumumba giving a statement. The chairman put forward and brought out of the attacks by the U.S. government on the character of Huey Newton and elevated that. Before his death, the chairman provided the honor guard for the funeral of Huey Newton when he was murdered, after he was assassinated. The chairman was the only one who fought for Marcus Garvey, which nobody talked about that. That was completely written out of history. The chairman had led many events in support of the American Indian movement. And as I said, Nicaragua, the chairman traveled to Europe, was part of the Irish Republican Socialist Party there, met with people who were in struggle during those times. Was that when they called it the Troubles? And the revolution in the north of Ireland, the chairman was there. He traveled, of course, he's had relationships with the Roma people who were struggling for liberation, derogatorily called gypsies in the United States, the Roma people in Europe who had an important liberation movement and saw the chairman as their leadership in so many ways. And the chairman, of course, has traveled all over Africa, wherever he could, to occupy Tanzania, Kenya, Sierra Leone, because the African People's Socialist Party is for one Africa. It is the liberation of Africa. And the title, as the chairman is pointing out, of this committee is Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa. The chairman spoke before the Pan-Africanist Congress in Azania about 15 years ago. The party's stand, the African internationalism, the first tribunal on reparations to African people that raised the question when nobody even knew what the word reparations was in 1982 in Brooklyn, New York, with Queen Mother Moore involved in these. Afeni Shakur, who was of the Panther 21 and Tupac's mother, by the way. Tupac was there at that tribunal as a little child, and all other luminaries and leaders of the African liberation movement at that time. The chairman made reparations a household word when, again, no one knew what the heck that meant. He was invited to speak in Spain. And as we know, the Black Power Blueprint under Deputy Chair Ona Zene's leadership and over 50 institutions of the African People's Socialist Party, that just to say that the theory and practice are one, that the chairman's example of internationalism is true African internationalism that we all must aspire to. And I just really want to put you forward, Chairman, the honor of having to see how you have moved in this world to not just explain the world, but to change it in the deepest possible way. Uhuru, Chairman.
Uhuru, Chairman Penny. Thank you so much for that overview, comrade. And just, it's important. Oh, were you going to say something, Chairman?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I hope that was not an obituary.
No.
People have to.
Long live Uhuru. I just think that was important in terms of, that was an important intervention for us to, provide that background in this webinar today, as it's titled Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, but just to, remind us of what, which is why the U.S. government attacked Chairman Omali Yeshitela. As he said, as the chairman said, I have not, I've been to Russia, but I've also been to Spain, I've been to Ireland. And so this has been a part of the struggle to unite the anti-colonial struggle where it exists. And, African people who have been dispersed everywhere are a part of that struggle. So I just really wanted to unite with that presentation, Chairman Penny, and to, join in saluting Chairman Omali Yeshitela in this struggle, and which is why we must free the Uhuru 3 and why we say it's not over. And so I want, just coming back to our program, because we are looking to wrap up, but I do want to say that we do have a time for question and answer, but I have not seen any questions come in. So I do see that the chairman's hand is raised. Perhaps this is the time, Chairman, for you to provide any statements before we move for announcements. Uhuru.
Well, there may be other things that people want to speak to, but one thing, we talked about Che and 2 or 3 mini Vietnams. That compares with our stance right now, recognizing a mode of production. That's what Che recognized. And that was different from, at the time, the anti-white, anti-war movement, especially as it was affected by the Socialist Workers' Party that was talking about no more Vietnams. That's what they were protesting, no more Vietnams, because for them, they saw Vietnam as a disaster. Che saw Vietnam and the resistance, the struggle of the courageous people of Vietnam as a front that was opening up and shaking the imperialists to its very foundation. We know that he was correct when he said that. In fact, under James Earl Carter, who was the U.S. president at the time, the U.S. government initiated the modern jihad. It was the U.S. government that trained armed jihadists and what have you, and sent them into Afghanistan to undermine, to overturn the Afghan government that was close to the Soviet Union at that time. And so the U.S. was determined to create for the Soviets their own Vietnam that would drain their resources, et cetera, as Vietnam had done for the United States. I think that that's kind of important for us to recognize. And we we have to recognize that colonialism has no legitimacy. I mean, that's really important for us to recognize. People, we are trapped in this situation of having to speak to colonial laws and things like that, partially and primarily because we think that that the people, there are many people who believe in the colonial laws, and they see that as foundational in terms of moral and legality of the existence and things that happen in the United States. What we fight for is utilization of this colonial law to be able to explain to the people, to talk to the people about this violation of that which they say they hold so dear. We never went to court trying to convince the judge or convince the people there, the system of Justice Department, that they should support the African Revolution and think it's wonderful as we think it's wonderful. What we went to do is to say you support the Constitution. We didn't write the Constitution, you did. That was not Omali Yeshitela's Constitution. That was not the Uhuru III's Constitution. That was your Constitution that says that we're supposed to have the right to have these discussions, to organize in the interest of the liberation of our people and to speak in that interest. And this was the contradiction that we brought to them. This is one of the reasons, even before we went to trial, when the Justice Department put forth this statement about why it was planning to put us in prison forever, is that they said that we weaponize free speech. They didn't say that's what they were doing when they was fighting against King George, and when they stole this land, that they weaponized. They wrote free speech, and it was weaponizing free speech to go against the monarchy for them, but not for us. I think that it's also important from our perspective, to recognize that colonialism, it makes the law. It creates the law. I'm not saying that everything they do is illegal. I'm not one of those that's saying, you did all these illegal things. You made the damn law. And you made you made laws that protected colonialism. That's the basis of the law, to protect the existing social system. So if it's a colonial social system, then the laws are created to protect that social system. And you can put me in jail because under colonialism, freedom is illegal. Can you see colonialism happening any other way? Freedom is illegal under colonialism. And that's what the laws were created to make happen. So I wanted to say those things. And I wanted to say that another, what I think is really important point to make, and perhaps we'll be saying this, we have a webinar happening tomorrow, I think, but somebody made the point that resistance is critical in so many ways. It gives us the means to which we fracture the unity of the oppressors. We wouldn't have been able to be talking right now about going to trial and overturning this case if it were not for resistance. If we had done what they wanted us to do, which was just to cop a plea, and because say, oh, we're so scared, white man, that you came with tanks and all these other things that we simply surrender. If we'd done that, then we wouldn't be having this discussion. There would be no hands off Uhuru. There would be no discussion about changing this law at all. Look at what has happened as a consequence of Iran. Iran, the resistance in Iran fractures the unity of so much. All over now, the Middle East, these entities that have been put in place in the first place by imperialism, going back to 1919, now having to challenge their relationship, discuss this relationship they have with the United States. I think we should really be looking at these issues when we talk about the state of affairs right now. The United States can't do exactly what it wants to do. The resistance fractures the unity within the United States itself. If the people in the United States have leadership to say where to go, with that, fractures the unity internationally with some of the allies that it's supposed to have. We talk about how, yes, the United States is putting together this peace, whatever they call it, and people can buy it for $1 billion. Yeah, they're doing that on the one hand, but on the other hand, there are countries who are showing that they won't touch the United States right now in this war that they're making against the Iranian people with 10-foot poles. And the people who have participated in the Middle East themselves, they are saying they expect the United States to be able to protect them. Now they know the United States can't protect them. The whole, it's not enough just to say that they're losing money here, talking about the United States, and they are. But the fact is that the whole strategic thrust of the United States has been undermined. It's overturned as a consequence of the Iranian resistance. They got to use all this ammunition now. How are they going to protect the so-called Taiwan, the land of the Chinese people from them? How are they going to continue to prosecute the murder of Russian people using Ukraine as the means to be able to do that? How are they going to be able to even, the Iranian resistance also has encouraged a lot of other people who to fight. So if you fight these suckers that, they show that they're vulnerable. I just wanted to say that I really think it's important for us to recognize that. We're not looking at an entity that can simply do any damn thing it wants to do. As long as they are revolutionaries, as long as there are people who recognize that is a mode of production that we're dealing with. And the fabric of the social system is rending, is being ripped asunder, around the world by the resistance of the people and people trying to take back our lives for ourselves. You're talking about a brutal social system that makes the law, that legalizes being able to kill Black people, kill Iranians, kill people around the world. In fact, they're talking about indicting Cuba, leaders in Cuba, so that they can go and kill them too, because it's the law, their law. And so this is something I really think is important for us to understand and recognize. And I know I've talked, a bit, but those are just some of the points that I think is important. And the final point I would make is that the Zionists can leave. They can leave Palestine, but the Palestinians are there, and they are going to be there. Zionists can go back to New York, Milwaukee, to Russia, and all those other damn places. But the Palestinians are there, and they're going to be there, and they've been there all this time. And the same thing is true of the people in Iran. They're going to be there. But you look at how Israel, for the first time, is having to really pay a price for what it's doing. And the oppressor never wants to pay a price for the crimes that it commits against the people. And they're saying, you're going to pay a price. And that's that's creating this avalanche of lies and excuses that you see coming from the Trump administration. You see the Trump administration backtracking, trying to find a way to double talk, to say, well, we didn't really mean this, et cetera, trying to find a way out of the quagmire that they've been thrusting themselves into ever since they attacked the heroic and Iranian people. Uhuru, comrades.
Wow. Thank you so much, Chairman. I know we are short on time, but I think that was just such a, important, closing remarks, and just to, tie it all together. And I did see another hand raised, so I don't know if that was that you, Comrade Ann? But you put it back down. So let me know if you did want to make any statements. Oh,
Hola.
Hola.
Hola. I have to turn off the translation here. Okay. Mwezi, are you there? Uhuru.
Yes, I'm here. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm off camera. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Uhuru.
First of all, I just want to say thank you so much to Chairman for this incredible opportunity for everyone to come together, and for us of the Colonial project to take a different stand and be here with everyone. I wanted to ask, I know Ardi had said he had something to say about how music impacts the resistance. And if we have time, I'd love for him to say that. And also just want to thank his mother for being here also.
Yes, of course. Well, I think, I think now is the perfect time. If we can help Ardi prepare to give that statement.
Parecer si podemos prepararle a Ardi para hacer esa declaración. Okay, can the interpreter be heard?
Yes.
Thank you. Ready? Lista. Señor Ardi, si quiere hablar.
Uhuru, and I'm just prompting him as well, in case that helps. There we go.
Hello.
Uhuru, hello. Go
Uhuru,
ahead.
hello. Adelante.
Okay.
Perhaps if you need to restate the question, interpreter, maybe that would help, just in case.
Could you say it again? I do apologize. The impact of the resistance of the music on the resistance struggle?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Pues la pregunta fue que si usted quería comentar sobre para usted, cuál es el impacto que puede tener la música en la lucha de la resistencia.
Bueno, a ver, para los pueblos indígenas acá en Ecuador, ha habido mucha represión por parte del gobierno, ¿no? Entonces, hemos buscado el espacio, en este caso en la música, tratando de que nuestra música suene en todo el campo, lo que es en la radio, en la televisión, hemos buscado espacio. Ha sido también bloqueado esa situación, pero hemos buscado de esa forma hacer que la voz de nosotros se escuche en nuestras letras, en nuestra música. Yo creo que la música es algo importante para hablar y gritar contra, o hablar y gritar y decir que hay resistencia de los pueblos contra el opresor, contra el colonialismo, ¿no?
Gracias. Well, let's see. For the indigenous here in Ecuador, there has been a lot of repression by the government. So we have tried to make the space through music, and we try to have this music played throughout the countryside, throughout the country, on the radio, on the TV, and in that way make that space so that our voices can be heard through our lyrics and our music. And the music is a way to speak and to shout out against the repression.
Uhuru, thank you so much, Ardi, and our interpreter for that translation. I just wanted to really unite with what Comrade Ardi said, and in terms of and how we understand that culture should not just exist on its own in this period, in this anti-colonial struggle. It must be tied to, to, as we say, a to what end. And, revolution is that to what end. And what Ardi just explained is, is how we are using, organizing artists, cultural workers as a part of that fight back. So just wanted to unite with that. And yeah, I'll leave it there.
Uhuru, muchas gracias, Ardi, y a la traductora, y quiero unirme con lo que ha dicho Ardi y en decir también que sí, que la cultura no debe existir en aislamiento, sino tiene que estar atada a la pregunta a qué fin buscamos, o sea, hacia dónde vamos, cuál es la meta. Y la meta es la revolución. That's as far as I got. Sorry.
Yep.
I may have missed something at the end there. I do apologize. Interpreter apologies.
No, that's fine. And I would just say, if there's any, just to ask Ardi if they, Ardi and the group Yachay, just to know that we do have a platform, Black Power 96, which is a radio station that is also streamed globally. And there's programs like Local going global. I really think we need to consider bringing, playing this music, which we're going to hear at the end of our webinar, for the world on those platforms as well.
Y quisiera que decirle a Ardi que tenemos una plataforma que es una estación de radio que se llama Black Power 96, que se escucha globalmente y que deberíamos de considerar la posibilidad de reproducir su música ahí en nuestra estación de radio.
Sí, mejor. A ver, ¿puedo decir algo, no? ¿Puedo?
Yes, that would be even better. Can I say something?
Yes, sí.
Sí.
Sí, adelante.
Bueno, bueno, como músico indígena quichua, gracias la oportunidad que me han dado para que se escuche mi música. Yo no busco fama, no busco ser famoso, tener dinero. Lo que yo busco personalmente que se escuche nuestra voz, nuestra lucha a partir de la música. Que la gente vea que sí existe un pueblo reprimido y que estamos en lucha. Yo digo una sola cosa, digo, mientras existe un pueblo que grite su lucha, que grite en su idioma, que grite que sí existe y que defienda su tierra, la resistencia no va a morir nunca. Así que sigan, compañeros, adelante. Agradezco la invitación. Tengo muchas canciones para la mujer, muchas canciones para nuestros hermanos que han migrado.
Momento, por favor, es un poco largo. ¿Puedo interpretar hasta allá, por favor? Gracias. Okay. Well, I want to say, as a musician, an indigenous Quechuan musician, I want to thank you for the opportunity. I'm not looking for fame. I don't want to be famous. I'm not trying to get rich. Personally, I just want the voice of our struggle to be heard through music. I want people to see that there is a people that is oppressed and who is fighting, struggling. And I want that this struggle should be heard about, and that while there's people who are fighting, that shouts out about their fight in their language, that the resistance will never die. And forward, and thank you.
Wow. Uhuru, venceremos, adelante. And we look forward to hearing all of the songs of the resistance, as you said, from the woman to the people. This is our time. Thank you so much, Ardi, and we will be in touch. Nos vemos, Uhuru.
Y sí, Uhuru y adelante, y estamos ansiosos por escuchar sus canciones sobre la mujer, sobre el pueblo, todo lo que usted ha dicho, todas las canciones que mencionó. Y Uhuru, este tiempo es nuestro.
Uhuru y mucha resistencia.
Sí, viva
Uhuru
la resistencia.
and much resistance.
Yes.
Yes, long live the resistance.
Yes, long live. Wow, thank you so much. What a great segue for us to, get ready to hear Resistencia, and to just salute all of our wonderful speakers. We're moving to close now, comrades. So I'm going to bring up our appeal team to give us an update on that. We're going to go through our announcements and close with Resistencia. So if our comrades in St. Louis, there we go. I see you there, Comrade Amanda. Where are we at with reaching our goal, Uhuru?
Uhuru, thank you, Chair Moisey, and just want to appreciate everyone that spoke on this webinar so far. We are now at $1,493 raised today, Uhuru. So I just want to say the donations that came in after we closed from the appeal were Robert, who gave 20, Maureen, who gave 100, Indigo, who gave 25, Charles, who gave 10, MQ, who gave 20, Leah, who gave 100, and then Chairman and Deputy Chair, who gave $300. So wow.
Uhuru. Wow. So that puts us at, one more time, 1,493 raised.
Only $507 left to go for today, and then $8,500 left to go before we have all the money needed to pay the legal fees for the oral arguments. So we do want to bring in the rest of this money today. It's only $507. That could be 5 more people doing 100, 10 people doing 50. So I just want to see if anyone wants to do an additional donation, or if you have not contributed yet, if you would like to make that donation. So you can, for speed, let us know in the chat, or you can go ahead and go to handsoffahuru.org/donate.
Uhuru, comrade. Yes, let's make that goal. Find somebody who you know hasn't donated, or has been wanting to, and this is their opportunity to help us get on a good foot towards raising these last large amount that is needed for the appeal. So just wanted to really appreciate everybody who has contributed in many ways in today's program. I want to, before we go in, as we pull up the announcement slides, I just want to thank all of our volunteers, from our AV to our interpreters, our chat moderators, all of the comrades who provided presentations. I want to salute the presentation with Comrade Jesus. We want to salute and appreciate Ardi. I want to thank Comrade Ann, Comrade Paulo, members of the committee, and those who are not on this call, but who were, instrumental in helping to pull this analysis and this webinar together. And so I just want to go through quickly all of our announcements.
Uhuru.
Yes.
Before we go too quickly, I do want to say that Leah pledged $50 and asked me. So Jesse's gonna match Leah. That's another 50. I'm gonna match Leah. Hold on, Jesse. Wow, 25. Comrade. So only 332 left to go.
Oh, we're so close. Okay.
Which would be less than 7 people doing $50. So want to keep it going. Who else can match Leah? Uhuru, and that includes people who have already contributed today.
Uhuru. All right, so you can use the chat. Thank you, Leah, for kicking that off again. Leah's asking who can match me in the chat. And again, only 332 left. Those of you who are watching on Facebook and on YouTube, you can do that by going to handsoffahuru.org/donate. And remember to share this webinar after today, so we can continue to put out this analysis and fight and take this fight back also in the court. So one more call. Before we go, you can use the chat, or Comrade Amanda will cut me off to give me an update. So I'm gonna just wanted to salute this great image here of just, the campaign taking place around the world. We want to encourage everybody to be a part of the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition. If you are a member of this coalition, or you'd like to be connected with us, meet us, next week coming up, at the Maduro trial. But you can join by going to handsoffahuru.org/coalition, read our demands, read our statement of unity, and build the Latin America front of the fight back. We say hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, hands off Venezuela. This is one of the banners that we have available on the website. If you go to handsoffahuru.org/outreach, where you can find this and other materials. As was mentioned, we will be there March 26th at 8 a.m., 500 Pearl Street, bringing court support along with these other organizations who have endorsed this rally and this march to free President Maduro and first combatant Celia Flores. So come out for the court support march and rally. We will have speakers lined up as well to be able to present, why this is important. So we say salute to the endorsing organizations, and salute to you who will be there next Thursday. We invite comrades who are interested in joining the Fight Back Coalition to consider that, participating in our monthly meetings. You can email us at coalition@handsoffahuru.org. We meet once a month. Our next meeting will be in April. And again, we say, don't stop talking about the Uhuru 3. You heard why on today. It's important that we keep this struggle in front of us, this precedent-setting case. You can follow us on social media as well. As we said, we must, attack this counteroffensive on all fronts. And as we, and I see one hand raised, so I'll turn it over as I finish up this. But we want to encourage everybody to, register for the African People's Socialist Party International Plenary happening in St. Louis, Missouri, April 17th through the 19th. You can see the work on the ground being there. We invite you to go to apspplenary.org/register, where you can participate either virtual or in person. And you will get a chance to see the amazing Uhuru Bakery Cafe, also get some food from there as well. This cafe is open and has been, working, over around the clock to continue to bring, the struggle for Black power in an Uhuru pie, the best pie that you will taste. And I just want to announce one last announcement here from the African People's Solidarity Committee, who is calling on you to join them Wednesday, March 25th at 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern Time for a web event about the African community's anti-colonial struggle for Black community control of housing throughout history and up until this present day. So from the party's historic Measure O and Measure H campaigns in Oakland, California, to the Black Power Blueprint in St. Louis, Missouri, APSC calls on white people to be a part of the solution, building a new world through reparations. So you can register by going to apscuhuru.org/register. Uhuru. So comrades, we're going to hear from Resistencia, that song, one last time, but I want to turn it over to Chairman Omali Yeshitela to take us home. Uhuru.
Well, Uhuru, comrade, thank you. The only thing I wanted to say is to make an announcement that on tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement will be hosting a forum. The title of which is This Time to Islam. Is that the title? No, what does the U.S. attack on Iran mean to African people, mean to Black people? So that's going to be happening tomorrow, and there are going to be some really important presenters participating in that discussion. So hopefully people will come out. We saw a decent turnout from some people today who don't normally come to the Sunday meeting, but hopefully people will come out on tomorrow, Sunday. Thank you so much. I really want to express appreciation to everybody who turned out. I wanted to also say how significant I think it was that we played and sang the African Nation Fight song. Yes. And helps us to understand, hopefully, that this is not just a protest movement. Mm-hmm. We're about the liberation of African people, and that's what that fight song is all about. Yeah. And I'm glad that people had an opportunity to hear and join with us in singing that song. If you listen to the song, the lyrics and what have you, it's a song that's fighting for the emancipation of all the oppressed people, certainly for African people, all the oppressed people. And it's one that recognizes that the class question is concentrated in the colonial contradiction. So that's what we're fighting. And I really wanted to appreciate everybody for being here today. And Comrade Mwezi, Comrade Penny, Comrade Amanda and Jesse, and everyone who's played such an incredible role. The translators, interpreters, if you will, the comrades are right there in Ecuador. We're going to indigenize that struggle then. Yes. Thank you so much. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Chairman. Thank you, comrade and comrades. So I want to invite everybody to, stand up and stretch and join us in our closing song, Resistencia by Yachay, and salute, comrades, venceremos. We are winning.
Alpa manda, causa y manda, Sacha manda, Caparizu.
Takarkashun, Sacha takarkashun, Kausay takarkashun, Tukoy wanguisa. Alpa takarkashun, Sacha takarkashun, Kausay takarkashun, Tukoy wanguisa. Nunca yambrun karatay, ensa yambrun karatay, ini pori, nunca yambrun karatay. Nunca yambrun karatay, ensa yambrun karatay, ini pori, nunca yambrun karatay. Fuera petroleras, fuera minerías, fuera asesinos de nuestra Amazonía. Fuera petroleras, fuera minerías, fuera asesinos de nuestra Amazonía. Resistencia, resistencia, resistencia. pori, nunca yambro karatay, nunca yambro karatay, ensa yambro karatay, ni pori, nunca yambro karatay. Fuera petroleras, fuera minerías, fuera asesinos de nuestra Amazonía. Fuera petroleras, fuera minerías, fuera asesinos de nuestra Amazonía. Resistencia, resistencia, resistencia. Resistencia, resistencia, resistencia. Petroleras, fuera minerías, fuera asesinos de nuestra Amazonía. Fuera petroleras, fuera minerías, fuera asesinos de nuestra Amazonía. Resistencia, resistencia, resistencia. Resistencia, resistencia, resistencia.
Yachay, un grito de resistencia.
Resistencia, Uhuru.
Uhuru, compas, un abrazo. Bye bye.
Un abrazo, Uhuru.
Uhuru. Uhuru.